A new day has dawned at Greendale Community College. Some said we'd never bounce back after the unfortunate events of the Starburns Wake Riot, instigated by the Greendale Seven. But today, the guilty parties have been expelled. Enrollment is up, and tuition is more affordable than ever. And the architect of this modern-day miracle? Security Chief Benjamin Franklin Chang, a man who has brought security, harmony, and success to what is fast becoming the area's premier community college.
Greendale's never been better.
How's the planning going for my birthday Changstravaganza?
The magician's booked, and the invitations went out to the school board and the Budweiser Frogs.
Perfect.
Yeah, one little snag. See, we're kind of running out of money. What with all the students dropping out and the cost of your throne.
It's a prescription throne. I have back months. Don't look it up, it's rare.
And they're being taught that it's important to have views, and they're not being taught that it's important to know what you're talking about.
How dare you! You have stolen my dreams, my childhood.
But this virus remains extremely dangerous.
Fear and germs, why these fucking pussies?
This is Apostasy Now.
To get people actually to love their certitude. This is the ultimate in malevolent revolution.
Get ready to root for the bad guys.
This is the world now being run by teenagers. Does nobody know anything?
Welcome back to Apostasy Now. Jim is the name of our guest this episode, and I have to apologize to him and to you. I've been going through a lot of stress. So this was recorded around November 9th, just after the US election. It's taken me some time to get it out, and in the future, I'm going to do less editing to try and streamline my process to get it to you quicker so it's more relevant. But at the very least, I hope it's interesting to hear what we were accurate or inaccurate about after a couple of months of this playing out through the non-court process for Donald Trump, his supporters, and all the people who hate him. As for Jim, you might know him by the handle of Outwest. He has been a skeptic and an atheist for many years, a conservative who has his own blog. He writes about anything that's on his mind. You can find that at conskep.com. That's CONSSKEP.com. I encourage you to go there, and the links will be in the notes. So, an apology once again to you, our guest Jim, and even Smashlock, my co-host, who doesn't do the editing. Again, I'm going to try and get this out quicker. Welcome back to Apostasy Now. All right. So, by the way, what do you want me to call you for this? Because I know you used to go by like Outwest, right? Back in the day.
Yeah, I still am called Outwest, but I mean, you can call me Jim.
Jim? Okay.
That's
all right.
my name.
All right. Hey, Jim, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Doing just fine. I've been really interested in you guys' podcast for a long time, and it's good to see you back, podcasting. Thanks. Because we miss it. Atheist podcasts are few and far between, I think, anymore, right?
Yeah, it's true.
There used to be a slew of us.
And quite frankly, some of the ones that are still kicking around they're only for a very select audience, shall we say.
I would agree.
Yeah, it kind of fell away from being solely about atheism after a while because the progressive left got their fingers so deep into that cookie jar that it almost, if you kind of threw yourself out there as a predominantly atheist podcast, everyone was like, oh crap, they're going to tell us that we're wrong because we're this and that. And the identity politics was getting way too intertwined with it.
Well, I know I went to, here in Canada, I went to 3 different conferences. I wish I could have gone to more. But I know for a lot of the conferences, a lot of them have just stopped.
Oh yeah, they've gone away mostly. I think it is I think it's held in, well, there's 2 that I keep hearing about. There's one, I think in Michigan, and that's the one, oh, come on, Jim. there's been a lot of controversy about it.
Oh, in Wisconsin, I think, right?
Wisconsin. That's where it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the MythCon.
MythCon. Thank you. And then there's like the Skeptic one in Missouri.
That one I'm not as familiar with.
I've never been to either of them. But
do they still do TAM?
No, that's gone.
That's gone.
And, yeah, that's been long gone. And he just died, by the way.
Yeah, 90.
Yeah.
The amazing Randy died at age 90.
Oh, wow.
Very recently. And he's, he's one of those guys that, I don't know what his health was like, and he certainly deserved a retirement age, but he's one of those guys I wish he'd been able to come out and talk more to some of these progressives, because even though I think he was left-leaner himself, he had street smarts. And I often use the example of how when people use these sayings like, there's a consensus in science, or you're anti-science if you disagree with this article. It's like, okay, but you see, the reason James Randi was able to trick scientists in their own lab about psychic abilities was because he knew how to come at someone sideways. It's called street smarts.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And this is what a lot of eggheads or beakerheads don't naturally have it. And sometimes it gets frustrating when science gets turned into like a decree system.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what it is mostly. I get into trouble, for instance, on Twitter when I will post articles, and I think you see them because some of them you check, and some of them you actually retweet on science that goes against the grain.
Yeah,
like on the pandemic, for instance.
Yep.
I post a lot of articles, and I have a lot of questions about it. It's not that I don't think there is a pandemic or that it's not serious. I don't say any of that. I just say, why are we treating it like, I'm old enough to remember the Hong Kong flu in 1968. Okay. I was 13. Okay. I'm giving away my age. School, over 1 million people in the U.S., like something like 1.5 million people in a year died from that.
Whoa.
Okay. I never missed a day of school. They didn't close schools. They didn't close any shops down. People still live their lives. And so I have questions like, why are we, when our death rate in the U.S., 330 million people, we have 230,000 deaths. That's a lot. I agree. There's better to have no deaths. But still, trying to find a comparison here, and it just doesn't make any sense to me that we can have a flu epidemic in 1968 where 68, 69, where over 1 million people in the U.S. alone died, and then it was over, and now we're acting like if we have one death because of something new like this, it's I don't know how to explain it. And that's why I blog about it as well, because it's too much. There's too much information, which doesn't add up to any information, I guess is what I'm looking at.
Well, they certainly inundate us with facts and figures that are definitely decontextualized when it comes through the mainstream media. But one of the major, and I called it with coworkers and with Mr. Dragonbeard here, that they were going to attempt to correlate the lower than doom and gloom predictions with the lockdowns.
Yeah.
And without any evidence and without any supporting studies, they have, like clockwork, as soon as the first wave kind of died off, they started saying the only reason this wave died off, the only reason you're not seeing these deaths in the magnitudes of these predictions was because of the lockdowns. And I think by and large, most people just believe it. They just believe that without the lockdowns, the deaths would have been huge.
Okay. I hear you, and I hear that all the time, and I sit back and I say nonsense. Because wait, on the other side of that, what do they tell you about catching the virus? It's indoors.
Yeah.
Right. You're around people indoors. So if you're locked down, if you're a shut-in at home, guess what? You're more likely to catch the virus than if you're outside.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Down,
yeah,
and the people that excuse me are shuttered are the people that are dying, the people that are locked down.
Well, what I always notice and point out is that why is it no matter what situation we're facing internationally or as a country or whatever, these people answer is always the same: more government. Let's strip personal freedom. More government. More government. Like, okay, they say the environment's bad. We're all going to die. More government. More government. We have a virus, more government, more government. What are we going to do about immigration? More government, more government. This problem, that problem. Okay, we get it. You're a communist.
Oh, man.
Personal freedom has done a lot for solving problems in the past. Maybe we should, not throw it out.
I don't know. I never thought I'd see what I've been seeing, the last couple of years. And it's actually the last 4 years since Trump was elected, right? In our country, in the United States.
Yep.
I just cannot believe what I've been seeing. I mean, it was a fair election, right? And people have just gone nuts.
No, you're thinking. So you think that the election's been generally fair?
Well, I don't know about this election. This election.
Oh, you're talking about 2016, yeah.
2016,
yeah,
when there was all this, collusion, and the Russians were changing ballots, and I can't figure out how they do that.
Yeah,
because like where I vote, right, we go in and fill out a paper ballot, right, with a pen, a marker, right, and we put it through a scanner, right.
Yeah,
it's a box, and it scans it. And it is network connected, but not at that time. So when you scan it, all that information goes onto a hard drive. I know this because I know one of the guys who does this. It goes onto a hard drive. Then when the polls close is when they fire up the network and they punch a button on the box or something, and it sends all that data on the hard drive to the county, right?
Yeah.
And where everything is tabulated at that point.
Okay.
All the votes are tabulated. And so how can the Russians change the votes when they don't have access to the hard drive because it's not on the network until after the polls are closed?
Well, don't get me wrong. If they've been able to show us pictures of Russian agents infiltrating the polling or counting stations, I would have been like, hey, those dirty Russians.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I think that one was a fair election. This one doesn't look like it. The more I look at it, the more I see it. I posted a little bit more about it this morning on my blog. There's something really, when you have, like in Pennsylvania, Trump was ahead on Tuesday night at close of business, whatever.
By over 10% of the votes or something crazy. It was a massive lead.
By like 600,000 votes.
Yeah.
And then the next morning he's behind.
Yeah.
And they haven't started counting votes yet.
Yeah.
But wait, here's the kicker. That morning, boxes and boxes and boxes of mail-in ballots arrived.
Yeah.
On the 4th. None of those ballots are legal, by the way.
Yeah, that's right.
They have to be there on the 3rd.
That's correct.
Okay.
And there's reasons for that, too.
And all of those ballots, by the way, were Joe Biden ballots.
Yeah, as soon as the count stopped late Tuesday night, like the night of the election, at first I didn't realize that it had stopped. I was getting no updates, because I was at work, so I can only check it periodically. But then I saw a headline, like they'd shut down counting in several states for the night. And as soon as I saw that, I said, I know what I'm going to see when I wake up. Massive spikes for Biden in the morning.
One of them went straight up. Like straight up.
Have you seen that? Someone's made a hilarious picture.
I saw that.
It's the two like scales when the votes are being counted, and then all of a sudden there's that spike that goes straight up for Biden, and they turn it into an F for fraud.
Yeah, I think that's funny, and it's unfortunate, because what they've done is they've destroyed people's I don't know
faith in democracy.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but maybe not fully. With the faith in the vote. How about that? Just not in democracy itself.
Well, listen,
but just in the vote.
I know. I was talking to my mom tonight. She here in Canada. She every year tries to get in at the polls when there's every time there's an election, and she likes working there. So she says, when we're working, there are observers around us all the time. Now, I already said a long time ago. I think for me, I've come to the conclusion that COVID, though there is a virus, I think there's a huge component of it that's political, that's being used as a tool. On an international level, like we're feeling in Canada, England, United States. And like I say, the pressure is always against individual freedoms. It's always about shifting the standards we have as a country. And sure enough, during this election over there, we hear about, they have to be 6 feet away. So have you heard the recording of the lady educating like everyone that's coming in to do counting? This recording was made on the 30th of October. And she's like, they have to have 6 feet between you and them because of COVID. So wink, wink, all you need is not to have 6 feet and they can't stand by you.
I have not heard that recording.
Yeah, she says a number.
Crowd laughs. The whole crowd laughs.
The whole group of them. And they're asking questions like basically how to count ballots that you're not supposed to count. This is the way you get it done. And then how to get rid of ballots that you don't want. And it's not specifically said, get rid of Trump ones, get rid of Biden ones, but it's clear that she's giving them ways to manipulate the system. And this is in Michigan, if I remember correctly.
I think it was Philadelphia, but it did.
Yeah.
In either case, like, if they do an investigation and the courts get involved, and so far the lower courts have not been favorable to Trump's legal team that I've heard so far, but if it goes higher and they actually do an investigation and the investigation turns up nothing, some people are going to believe that they stole it from Trump regardless, or some people are going to just be like, haha, he lost twice.
I think the decision is not going to be that. The decision is going to be whether to say that there's nothing that can be done and go along with Biden, or say, okay, we're going to dismantle this entire post-election process and get into the thick of everything, because there's going to be tons of evidence of irregularities. Well, the question is how they're going to handle it.
Now, Jim said that when they put the ballot into the scanner, does it scan the ballot like a digital photograph, or does it just kind of read a barcode and where you've...
Well, you have the little ovals that you fill in, right?
Yeah.
And you have to be careful not to go, way past the oval, or it won't read it. But somehow it scans it as, whatever you. I don't know I don't know the details of the internals of it, but it just scans it just like if you in college you took a test, right?
Yeah.
And you filled in A, B, C, D, right? And they take it to a scanner and they scan it. Same kind of thing.
So my only question is because you are at least somewhat familiar with these machines, is that if they scan a physical ballot, how are they going to differentiate? Like if they go and they do an audit of the vote, how are they going to differentiate between a ballot that was filled out and is legitimate versus one that was just faked on site versus one that was mailed in late? Like,
well, the ones that are by mail are supposed to be postmarked. Okay, and then they also have to be signed.
Yeah,
right, with the voter's signature on it. And if there's no signature on the mail-in ballot, and this is okay, let me differentiate a little bit.
Yeah,
absentee balloting is mail-in balloting, right? But it is where I, the voter, go online or call up if I'm not online and request a ballot be mailed to me at my house, because I cannot go to the polling station physically, be there, right? And so they send you a ballot. This mail-in balloting that they have been doing is, like my state of Arizona there's 7.4 million people that live in the state. Most of them live in the Phoenix area, about 4.5 million. Okay, so they have all of these people who are registered to vote. And if they did mail-in balloting here, they would just send a ballot to everybody that's on their list. They don't know if that person is living or dead, whether that person still resides at that residence or not, still resides in the city or not, still resides in the state or not. They just send it out, and that's what they've been doing in several states. California, they just mailed everybody that was on their list. And I don't know how often they scrub their list, right? For instance, 30 years ago, I lived in California, and I was a voter in California. Did they mail me a ballot at an address? Did they mail a ballot under my name to the address I lived at in California 30 years ago?
Apparently, this has been happening.
Yeah, and this is what's happening now. Dude, if they scrub the lists every once in a while, let's say you haven't voted in 10 years. Okay, well, your name goes off the list. But do they do that?
Do we steal the results of a democratic election or not? That's the decision. Because if we do this, we're criminals. Unindicted, maybe. But criminals just the same.
Yes, we are.
You won't do it. We've gotten this far, but that's it.
Excuse me.
You try to steal this election, you'll die inside. Likely move your cancer right to your heart. People made their choice. We'd have to live with it.
It's the wrong choice.
Yes, it is.
So that's it. We just give it up, just like that.
The battle, perhaps. But not the war.
Well, but here's the problem in the United States, which I didn't know about until recently. I've lived in 5 different states in this country in my adult life. When you move out of state, you're supposed to let them know so that they can scrub you from. No, it's a law.
Yeah, I'm just laughing because who would do that? No one would think of that.
I have never done that, and I would never think of. Yeah, you go to the post office, right? And now you do all that online. Where it used to be, you'd have to go get a card, right, and fill it out, and then take it to the post office. So they'd have your mail go from Texas to Arizona, let's say, so that your mail gets to you. But your voter registration, you're supposed to let them know.
So I don't know if you've heard anyone quoting Hitchens, but I know a couple of people had brought him up in different exchanges I had. One of them was that saying extraordinary
claims require extraordinary evidence, and that which is asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence.
So I don't know if you've watched my YouTube channel at all, but I replied to this in my most recent video where, okay, well, first of all, there's a couple of things that people don't understand when they're doing this. First of all, they think they're basically calling us conspiracy theorists using Hitchens. And on this matter, Hitchens wrote a 2006 article about the 2004 election, presidential election in Ohio, like how it happened there, because he felt that maybe it wasn't rigged, but it was certainly tampered with. And in this article, he goes through, and at the end, he talks to an expert who doesn't give her name. Like she does it under anonymity, but she's one of the few experts that understand these machines. And he lays out the question bare to her. Like she didn't believe there had been, like she didn't see any, she goes, I haven't seen any evidence that anything went wrong in Ohio. She goes, like, I don't know, but I haven't seen anything. And he's like, that's fine. But what would be for you, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but he goes, what would be a red flag that something has gone wrong with these machines, that someone's done something? And with the example he gives of only one side benefiting and the other side being disadvantaged over a short period of time to a large extent, she considers that a red flag. And what have we seen, not just in Ohio, in 1 or 2 counties, but now we've seen this in multiple states to an extraordinary degree. So anyone who knows about these machines would be looking at this as a red flag.
Yeah, they should be. But it really comes down to, for me, the ballots themselves. When they have people on video, I saw this the other day, on Wednesday. There was a guy with a wagon, right? Like a kid's wagon.
Yep.
And he had boxes. Did you see this video?
I have not seen that one.
I've seen this boxes.
Yeah, I've seen
boxes
likewise.
Of ballots in his little red wagon, right? Pulling it up at 4 a.m. on the 4th of November. These ballots to be counted. No, they can't be counted. They're late. If they're not military, if they're military ballots, they can be counted. But if they're not, no. But there's video after video of stuff like that going on.
There is infinitely more evidence, at least to make an investigation worthy.
Well, yeah.
Than there ever was for Russia.
Well, and this is what I say too. The other one they say is about evidence with Hitchens, and I'm like, okay, so how do you get evidence? We're not making an extraordinary claim. We're witnessing an extraordinary event. If it's evidence you want, that's fine. What we're calling for is investigations. That's how you get the evidence. You can't have evidence without an investigation in these matters. And for some reason, they want no investigations. Well,
the problem has been ongoing. I always knew there was going to be some hanky-panky, is what I call it, in this election, because people hate Trump so much. You either you're this way in this country, to me. You're a huge Trump supporter. You think he's okay. That's where I fit. Yeah, he's okay,
Yeah. And a lot of people who voted for Trump feel that way. It's like,
Yeah, and then he's and then you hate him no matter what, and no matter who he is, right? No matter what, you hate him,
demonize him.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I think that's where it's coming from. people weren't voting for Biden, by the way, right?
No.
Most of the people that I know that voted for Biden, and that's not that many people. I'm not talking about thousands of people. Half a dozen people I know that voted for Biden didn't vote for Biden for his policies. They voted for Biden because they hate Trump.
Right. It's that hatred that blinds and makes people irrational. I don't know if you follow Sam Harris's feed on Twitter, but I followed him for years. I've had some issues with him before, but now, like I say in my latest video, I disassociate with him completely. I want nothing to do with him ever again. He is so pitch foul and completely irrational that there's no coming back for me.
Yeah, but he'll say it calmly so it sounds perfectly rational.
Hi, I'm Sam Harrison. And he talks to people like they're children. Like, you don't understand. The man is dangerous. He's a con artist. It's like, you can say it any way you want, mister, but people can vote the way they want, and they're not stupid because they see it differently than you.
And that's the problem, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
As conservatives, right? Let's forget Republican, Democrat, Tory, liberal. I don't know what your parties are in Canada.
They just call them liberal and conservative because we're uncreative up here.
Well, that would be perfectly fine here, liberal and conservative. But as conservatives, we're always viewed that way, that we're too stupid to understand what the real problems are. Like you were talking about with the environment, right?
Yep.
Since the 70s, in the mid-70s, remember magazines?
No.
You know, I mean, I have a 14-year-old daughter that's a magazine. Like, what? What's a magazine? You know, she knows what an online magazine is.
Did the dinosaurs have those?
Yeah, exactly. Cavemen. Time Magazine, Newsweek, U.S. News and World Report. We're going to freeze to death by the year 2000. Right?
That's right.
Global cooling.
Yep.
You can look it up, and I've told my daughter, look it up, Google it. You know, that's how they find out everything. If it's historically true, that she could determine whether I'm telling her a lie or not. And then in the 80s, it was
acid rain,
ozone
layer,
global warming.
Yeah,
ozone
layer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. The ozone layer was going to disappear. We're all going to get fried.
Yep.
And by the year 2000, and then Al Gore came out with his
inconvenient truth,
inconvenient lie,
yeah.
or convenient lie that we're all going to be dead by 2013.
See, when that movie came out, I was still, that was around my university days, so I believed that whole movie. You know, and growing up over here, do you know who David Suzuki is?
Yes.
Yes. So he's considered the most trusted man in Canada up here. And I call him a charlatan because I grew up watching his videos. They were films actually on reel to reel, like those projectors. Uh-huh. And he told us we'd be dead by the year 2000. And do you think I can find any copies on the CBC or because the government funds the CBC, the Canadian Broadcast Company? It's, like a Soviet Union type of operation where they have like a news operation from the government. Do you think I can find any?
It's called PBS.
PBS. Well, ours is 100% funded by the government, though. It's totally government run. Anyways, yeah. So I can't find any copies of these old videos because if I could find them years ago already, I would be putting them up on YouTube and going, "Look, here's your David Suzuki. Here's your environmental science. We should have been dead multiple times, the entire world, multiple times over by now." So maybe we need to have a little bit less arrogance. And maybe the solution isn't always, like I said, more government.
Yeah, I think it's kind of crazy when you see this. One of the things that irritates the hell out of me is when people quote Bill Nye.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, this guy. Oh, first of all, he's not a scientist.
No.
Okay, but that doesn't mean you can't have an opinion. You can't do some studying and learn, things. I mean, right?
Yep.
But he's not an expert in anything. He's a children's TV show host, right? On science about why water boils when you apply heat to it. What is convection? Stuff like that. Why when I put blue dye into water does it change the water to blue? Crap like that. It's for like 5-year-old kids.
Yeah.
My daughter used to watch that show, I think, and was fascinated by it. And it's great stuff for little kids, but he's not an expert. And when I hear grown adults, college educated, I assume, quote him as an expert on the environment, my head explodes.
It's the equivalent of taking Tim Allen and wanting to get his advice on how to do home repair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know,
he's on a TV show.
Bring back Mr. Rogers from the dead. Be like, all right, kids, it's time to put on your mask. You know?
I got my wardrobe from Mr. Rogers. So.
Oh, well, it's kind of an amazing thing to see that grown-ups do this and believe, and don't question anything. We call ourselves skeptics, right? Atheists are normally like to use. I like to call myself a skeptic, right? My blog is conservative, not atheist, but skeptic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And because I question, I might ask the wrong questions. I might be asking questions about something that doesn't need to be questioned, but that's what a skeptic does, I think, right? Questions. What is going on in the world? What's going on in politics and science and mathematics and engineering and all these different things that are swirling around us all the time. That's why I have so many questions about the pandemic. I don't know how many blog posts I've written about the pandemic.
Yeah.
And questions about why are they telling us, when it's absolutely known that these masks don't work.
Yep.
For large droplets, yes. Like if you sneeze.
Jim, we've only got research going back to the 70s that tells us that. I mean,
I know.
We might just suddenly not know that.
But here's the thing: Google it, or whatever search engine you use.
Yeah.
You could find all this data that goes back for decades.
I wonder if the media all got together and they all said that gravity doesn't work and everyone needs to wear lead boots or they'll fly into space and die. I wonder if we're at that point when people would just say, do it or else you're a danger to society.
Yeah. You know what? That's a good point, because that's exactly what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing with this whole mask thing.
Yeah. It's about obedience. Yeah,
it is about obedience. I mentioned this the other day. There's a commercial on down here, and I can't remember what the commercial is about. I just turned on the TV a couple days ago in the afternoon, and there's this commercial on. There's this guy walking along in the woods, right? He has a camera, or like he's taking pictures out in the woods, right? That kind of thing. He's by himself, and he starts to sneeze, and he throws up his arm and sneezes into his sleeve.
Yeah.
He's by himself. There's not another person around for hundreds of miles. Why is he sneezing into his sleeve?
We have no idea how long the droplets that he just sneezed will.
He's Superman.
How long they'll last on tree bark? Like they could catch an air current.
It's true. He might be an Olympian.
Yeah.
and again, they keep coming back and telling us all this stuff, right? I went out and spent back in March or April, I don't know how much money on the Lysol wet towels, to wipe down surfaces.
Yep.
I bought 6 cans of those, right? As soon as they said they came out, our government came out and said, Dr. Fauci. I said, yes, you need to wipe down this, this could last on surfaces. We're not sure how long, but make sure your contact surfaces are clean so I did that. A week and a half later, no.
Yeah.
It won't survive on surfaces.
No.
Now it will, but for 15 minutes. Wait a minute, that was in July. Now it could be forever, or is it 15 minutes, or what am I doing here?
You know the expression that George W. Bush couldn't get right, but the rest of us know quite well. Fool me once.
Shame on you. Fool me twice. Well, the point is you ain't gonna fool me once, again.
Can't fool me again. But I mean, how often do people have to be fooled with this? They've literally, like you just said earlier, they directly contradict their previous orders.
Uh-huh. That's what they've done. Do I wear a mask all the time or not? If Biden becomes president, he's going to. Well, he doesn't have the power to. Right? He says he's going to lock down the nation. No president has that power. Trump didn't have that power. Trump has to depend on governors. I don't know if your prime minister has that power, because you guys have provincial governments as well, right?
It's a little more. It's a bit complicated to explain, but the federal government was denied by the provinces the right to bring in the Emergency Act, but then all the provinces brought in their own Emergency Act. So
and see, that's the thing. That's what happens here, except it's 50 of them, and they're different depending on which state you live in. For instance, when you read about Whitmer in Michigan, where you couldn't buy a birthday card. You couldn't buy seeds. Here it is. It's spring. Maybe you want to do some gardening.
Yeah.
You couldn't buy any gardening stuff in Michigan because it's non-essential
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, you must know that ruling out of Pennsylvania. I think it was by Stickman. I think was his name. The federal judge named Stickman, which is a funny name.
Okay.
And he had a ruling. Now I don't know what's going on with it. I think it's going through like, what do you call that? Other courts where they
appeal
courts or
the
something.
Appeals court, the circuit court.
But he ruled that the Pennsylvania emergency laws for COVID were unconstitutional. And the most impressive part of his ruling, because he didn't just make the ruling, he made them present all their evidence, and they tore it all down because it had to be presented and defended in court, which in the media it never does. So they couldn't defend themselves on anything, including things like, what is your definition of essential? Like, you have a council of people. What was their criteria for choosing the criteria? They had no definition. They had no reasonable way that they chose people for their council. But in the end, he said, listen, our Constitution was written during a time of emergency. So, I mean, if it's a small emergency, we'll give you leeway. But it's been months, so no, this is unconstitutional. It ends.
Yeah, exactly. It should end. People have got to get back to work, get back to school, get back to whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like I said, back in 1968, over 1 million people died in a year in the United States. I don't know how many. Look up to see how many people died in Canada from the Hong Kong flu.
Sure.
1968, 69. I think worldwide, I want to say the estimates were like 4 million people worldwide.
Would it be accurate to say, though, that back in 68, the United States and probably a lot of different nations were more right-leaning conservative anyway?
No.
No?
Are you kidding me?
Well, I like no, but I'm just like meaning electorally, like Republicans in office. I'm not talking about like the prevailing social fabric.
Well, let me see. 1960, John Kennedy was elected.
Yeah.
Right? He was assassinated in 63.
Mm-hmm.
Lyndon Johnson became president, was elected in 64. Lyndon Johnson then, because of Vietnam, decided not to run for re-election in 68. So we had a Democratic government. And oh, by the way, Congress was the House, the lower half, the House of Representatives was dominated by Democrats. The Senate was dominated by Democrats during all that time.
Yeah.
Up through the 70s. I mean, think about it. In 1994, when Newt Gingrich became Speaker of the House, they were the first Republican Congress to hold a majority in 40 years. 1994.
Whoa.
40 years. They became the majority in 1994. That was the first time in 40 years that they had been the majority.
Wow.
Well, so I was just going for a joke, but you killed it. All right, point taken.
Okay. Can we do something like there's got to be some kind of little flag or something to put up? Anyway.
Oh, we're going to do a joke?
No, I was just going to say, obviously back then they wanted your grandmother to die.
So this is a Canadian site that I'm on, Canadian government, so I don't know how reliable, but in 68, the technical term was the H3N2 virus.
Mm-hmm.
And so, hold on a second. It was, September. The estimated number of deaths was 1 million worldwide and about 100,000 in the United States.
Mm-mm.
That's what it says.
But there's a whole bunch of different articles.
There's a Wikipedia is different. An estimated 1 to 4 million globally.
Yeah. And about 1 million in the United States alone. And this wasn't over a period of like 2 or 3 months. This was like over a year, like a year and a quarter. But still, that's a lot of people to die from a virus.
Yeah, I agree.
And again, as many as 4 million people worldwide.
Well, listen, what my explanation is, the only way that I can explain this is I come at things politically. So I was a resistor against the COVID actions that were going on from the beginning because I could see that there was political things that didn't make sense. So I'm not a virologist or anything, right? But what I could see was there's supposedly an outbreak going on in part of China. They have not quarantined it. The World Health Organization is saying it's fine to travel because it doesn't spread. Then all of a sudden, was it weeks later? I think it was. They're like, "Oh yeah, it does spread." Like, you gotta be kidding me, right?
But here's the problem: we find out about it at the end of December of last year, right? That there's a possible issue, an outbreak in China.
Yeah.
Now I find out last month or a couple months ago this was actually going on in August of last year in China. Is when they think the outbreak started. So it started months earlier than they originally thought.
Well, okay, so then the next step should have been that they follow proper procedure that we've had in the sciences for decades on the books in the literature, which is lock down the borders so we have time to figure out who's vulnerable, how, like what the nature of the virus is. But they again did not do this. They said you were racist if you wanted to stop travel. Mm-hmm. You know, in Canada, while our government's, you know, hyping up the fear, we still have planes coming without any checks going on from China every day.
Now?
Yes. Like it has never stopped. And so, and we know this because we have a group called Rebel Media and some other independent groups I've been
reading Rebel Media.
Yeah. And so they would show up at the airports and they would ask people getting off the plane, were you did they do any inspection? Was there any quarantine efforts? No, they just posted a note. And then later there was an electronic screen you had to touch with your finger. Everyone getting off a plane from China all had to touch a screen with their finger. Wow. One after another.
They're bringing in the invasion force. Yeah, that's what one plane at a time.
Did you see anyone being given a mask?
Do you see me wearing a mask? No one got masks. No.
No, I even ask if there's mask around and they say, no, we don't provide that.
Were you expecting more enhanced security than what you saw today?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, there was not a lot going on. So, yeah, I thought there was more.
David Menzies for Rebel News here at Toronto's Pearson International Airport. Well, folks, I'm back again to fact-check the government on what it's telling Canadians vis-a-vis airline passengers and the coronavirus. Now, you would think surely by now there'd be enhanced security measures, but as I've seen from numerous arrivals from Pakistan to China, no, they're simply handed pamphlets to read.
Okay, I'm just saying, like, politically speaking, as someone who looks at things politically, this was something that was not taken seriously by authorities in terms of a disease whatsoever. They hyped it up for their own purposes that way. But we had politicians over here, England, every country, I think, that were breaking their own rules.
Oh, that's when I was also against the lockdowns and all the mandatory masks and mandatory everything. But what really put a nail in the coffin for me was Mother's Day when Doug Ford
that's basically our governor. It's called a premier here for Ontario.
Yeah. He has basically put a ban on groups of people greater than 5. If your family was already at 5 or in excess of 5, you basically couldn't have a visitor over at your house.
Yeah.
So here's our.
I thought you were about to say you had to kick one of your kids out or something.
You might as well at this point, but yeah, there was exceptions made for people who had families at or greater than 5, greater than 5. You obviously can't kick one of your kids out.
Yeah.
But I remember not 3 blocks from my house, they had city bylaw officers knocking on a door and basically breaking up a Mother's Day dinner because there was too many people over.
Yeah.
All right.
Doug Ford broke those rules.
And Doug Ford broke those rules. Like he said, he had his daughter over and it put his family, like his household, at 6. Now, did he just go one over? Yes. He did just go one over.
By the way, to put this into context, Doug Ford is leader of the Conservative Party in Ontario.
He's not a conservative.
Okay, yes, I do know about him, but he's the only person I know about other than Trudeau in Canada.
Yeah,
which is interesting. Think about this. You know probably more about what's going on in my country than I do, and I think I know a lot. And you guys know. I know nothing about what goes on in Canada. Zero. I live 20 miles from the Mexican border, literally 20 miles. I could walk out on my patio. There's a mountain just south of me. Across that mountain top is Mexico. Okay.
Yeah.
I know nothing of what goes on in Mexico. I know nothing about what's going on in Canada.
I honestly believe that Canada has come at media a little bit different than the United States has. In the United States, even if the news is fake or even if it's somewhat accurate, everything is sensational. They got the graphics and the bars and the tabulator at the bottom there that kind of just tells you everything else is going on. It's meant to inundate your senses with so much information that you can barely comprehend what's going on. Canadian news has started to shift in that direction in the last 10 or 15 years, but up until then, I think their goal was to bore the shit out of you so you just didn't pay attention.
So if you think of American news as like the magician on stage and he has fireworks going off, like blah, 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 hey, birds are flying at you, like, and you're like, whoa.
Canadian news is like Ben Stein, Bueller.
Well, no, ours is more like people talking to a group therapy session going, hey guys, don't you agree?
Yeah.
Guys.
Yeah. Actually, I would just rather have the news and not, it's fine that they have their opinion shows and everything. Everybody has an opinion and you're welcome to have your own opinion about whatever it is. But I just prefer like straight news, not slanted. And that's why I spend a lot of time on the internet, because I read right-wing stuff and I read left-wing stuff about the same topic, right?
Well,
and then I try and see, what information do they have there that fits together, right? So then I know that on the conservative side they make 3 points, and on the liberal side they make 3 points, and out of those 3 points, 2 points each agree. Okay, so that must be the real truth.
Yeah,
they agree,
compare. Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Comparison. You're not getting it from one source. You're looking at them and comparing how they measure out.
So according to left wing, he's racist.
So the real truth must be somewhere in the middle, right? Of the far right and the far left, or even the moderate right and moderate left. There's got to be the actual truth exists, and you can spin it any way you want. But what's the saying? You can have your own opinion, but you can't have your own facts.
Right. Yep. So, are you familiar with how do you spell this? How do you say his name? Dan Bongino.
Bongino, yeah.
Dan
Bongino. He's one of my favorite dudes ever.
So earlier today, I think it was, maybe it was yesterday. I think it was earlier today. Not even on Twitter. He put this on Parler. He said, and he's talking about Fox, but he can't say it probably because of contractual reasons. But he says, you have no idea how bad the shit going on behind the scenes really is right now. And then in caps, do not think for a moment that entities who were your friends are your friends now. The wheat and the chaff are being separated.
Whoa.
So that means there's civil war behind the scenes at Fox. People's contracts are being pulled. Lawyers are in the hallway, right? Because Fox has fallen.
Oh, yeah, they have.
I do not think as Americans that you can do this comparison thing with Fox and the other networks anymore, because at the end of the day, they threw Trump under the bus.
Yeah, they did. And what I said the other day, I was going to say this on Twitter, but then I thought I'd save it for a blog post, and then I didn't use it in a blog post, is I'll bet money right now that in the next few weeks, there's a guy, Johnny Dollar. You follow him on Twitter?
I have seen him. Yes, I've seen him today.
He's a big Fox guy, right? And he'll put out the demos, like the daily demos for Fox News compared to MSNBC and whatever, right? The demographic.
Okay.
The numbers of viewers, right? The total number of viewers versus the advertising number, like 29 to 54, that kind of thing. Anyway, Fox always beats everybody like by millions, literally millions of viewers. And now, but what I bet you're going to see is a huge drop off. Even with people like Tucker Carlson, you're going to see a drop off because people are going to say, well, Fox is no different now than MSNBC or CNN. Boom.
Well, because Tucker, at the end of the day, Tucker, Hannity, these types of people decided to go silent like they were told. Now, maybe it's their contract and they're being threatened, but either way, there are ways to let the public know what you think, and maybe they're fine with it. Maybe they don't care.
But you're going to see their numbers drop. I think all of them, all of it, the daytime shows, the opinion shows, you're going to see all that drop dramatically because nobody has anything they can trust anymore. That's why we need something that's like straight news. I've been playing with watching what's it called? Got the TV. Let me see if I can find it on the thingy here. It's Newsmax, I think is what it is.
That's
Newsmax,
the one. Yeah, that's the new one on the block that I just recently been told about because it came up because people were like, "Don't watch Fox, watch Newsmax." There's like an alternative.
Exactly. That's I saw that too, and so I started watching that this past week, and they're actually pretty good
so far. Yeah.
I mean, they're a conservative news organization, but try and play it straight. I think they do.
Listen, honestly, I don't even consider myself conservative per se, but the times we're living in, like 9 times out of 10, I'm on the side where the conservatives are. I think it's because so much of the power in the media and the government has gone so far to the left.
Yeah, it's like we had a protest, a freedom march in Elmer, Ontario, which is a stone's throw from where we're located.
Yeah.
And I drove...
the Freedom March, they call it, right?
Yeah. I was going to drive by, but I was working, and I figured the delay in traffic would make it so that I wouldn't get back in time. And I was like, you know what, better not play hooky.
But it didn't work.
So it didn't work. But I've seen videos of it, and the comments on the videos from people is just filled with such poison vitriol. Like it's so many people are willing to give away their freedoms because they think that their right not to get sick trumps everybody else's right to freedom.
Yeah.
Everybody else, like it doesn't, even theirs, they do not understand what it means. They have lost all perspective on it.
Yeah.
And like the local media, we have a more local media called CTV News. And they went and they were like hundreds of people went. No, it wasn't hundreds. It was over 1,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
The problem with the media, so in the last election that you guys had, presidential election 2016, that was the main thing that I took away. It wasn't, oh wow, Trump had this upset victory, because I predicted 10 months ahead of time that he was going to win. This before he even had the nomination, I think. And I'm not saying like I'm a prophet. I saw it and I was like, wow, I think he's going to win, and then he did. So I wasn't shocked by that, despite what the polls said. What I was shocked about was the messaging uniformity in the media. Like, I could not believe how bad it had gotten, not just in the U.S. You should have seen the articles in Canada, even following the election. The way our news talked about Trump was shameless.
Yeah.
And it is. And you think about how there was a Harvard study, his first year, 3 months in, right? 3 months into his administration in 2017, Harvard, a couple of professors at Harvard looked at the news media, the coverage of Trump since January 21st, 2017, when he became president. 93% negative.
Yeah. Did you ever see the comparison with Obama?
Oh yeah.
Like Obama, they're like, "Hey, aren't you amazing? Aren't you a rock star? Don't you just hate being so amazing and right all the time?"
Trump is married to one of the most beautiful women who has ever been a first lady in the United States ever.
It's true.
She was never on the cover of any magazine. Michelle Obama, who she's not an unattractive woman, but not even close to.
She looks like she's got that look though, like she could be really badass,
like Patrick Ewing in a wig.
Could beat you up. She's like a bully. Like she could beat you up. Yeah.
She's like she's more like an urban version of Barbara Bush in a slightly younger body.
Yeah, she is but she was on every magazine cover multiple times.
Absolutely,
over 8 years. Melania Trump, never, not once. Melania Trump, she wasn't out front. Because her husband was president, right? She wasn't elected. He was. She did her thing in the background.
Yes.
But that's what it was, in the background.
See, I always liked Trump, and I've explained this to Dragonbeard, and like a lot of people in our area, in our circles, are confused. Like, why do you like Trump? Why do you like Trump? Well, one, the reason why I liked Trump as a Canadian is that as far as like establishment media and like the politically correct crowd, he infuriated them. So I took a great deal of pleasure in seeing how much he triggered the shit out of them. But I also thought for a very long time that both in Canada, which has a very close ties with the U.S., and in the U.S., that there's been this slow, steady march towards socialist and social justice kind of movements that would control your speech, would control your information, and it just seemed like Trump would be the political equivalent of chemotherapy. Sure, it's poisonous and it's doing a lot of damage while it's in there, but the whole purpose of it was to kind of set everything back to normal, right? And my hope had been is that after 2 terms, maybe both sides of the political spectrum would go, holy shit, what the hell just happened? We need to actually calm down and let cooler heads prevail and actually pull towards the center as a kind of a correction. Oh, wow, was I wrong? because they just yanked that cable all the way back to the left. And I don't know, when I saw Georgia flip for Biden, that's when I just started laughing. And I'm like, wow, they're being brazen.
The Secretary of State has already declared there will be a recount. He did that a couple of days ago, because that's like impossible. That's just what happened in Georgia. I mean, I think I heard him say this on TV. It's not possible for that to have happened.
So, Jim, can I just tell you, because you probably haven't seen my latest video, right?
No.
The latest video is called Jefferson Wept, and I lay out that the idea that what we're experiencing is not a rigged election, and it's not just about censorship that's going to be coming in soon. It is a revolution. And I think a lot of people who are resisting it are a step behind, as we often are. But because of my particular mindset, I don't mind people calling me names. So I'm saying it outright. I think that the reason I knew what was going to happen the next morning was that I consider this like a bulldozer strategy. They were going to shove those counts up, and they wouldn't care who saw or who knew. They were simply going to get them up. And the next strategy is to push across those deadlines. So the media is giving them cover and social media is censoring, but their goal is to get across certain thresholds of time so that they can then pressure everyone to capitulate to their counts. That's their strategy. And I think the reason they're willing to do it is because these people, they're using true believers who hate Trump, who honestly, a lot of these people who are saying that they don't think anything's wrong, they know something's wrong. A lot of them do, but they just hate Trump so much they don't care. As long as he's leaving.
I would say most of them do.
Yeah.
But like you say, they don't care. Anybody but Trump. Anybody but Trump is what it is. You know, if a dead cat would have been running on the Democrat side, and I've said this out loud to multiple people, they would have voted for the dead cat.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, seriously. I mean, it's funny,
people,
but they would have. A dead cat would have gotten 80 million votes.
Yep.
And here's the thing. Like, I'm not saying that Biden didn't have supporters. But everyone kept saying, well, the reason why Biden can only get 10 or 20 people at his rallies is because he's not inviting that many to keep them safe from the pandemic. He doesn't want to contribute to a super spreader event. And I'm like, yeah, bullshit.
Well, this is where it links in with COVID.
Right.
This is what I'm talking about. Like, I don't think the COVID, the way it's been manipulated, was just about the U.S. election. But I think that this overall push towards stripping people. Well, first of all, how are we supposed to know things? So the three of us here, we all know the atheist community, the skeptic community. Well, what gave rise to our communities is that we could communicate freely online, and people of like mind could start exchanging ideas and realizing there was more of us. It emboldened us to try and do more. Right. Now we see the effort for the last 10 years going the other way. It's about breaking us up, shutting us down, preventing certain ideas from spreading. And it's just reached this fever pitch where I don't know how much further they can push it without it causing serious ruptures in our society.
I think it's already beginning. There.
But that's how they disempower us. So in this election, I think, like we just said, I think lots of people, if not most people, know something's wrong. But what do they hear? They keep hearing from every news source, nothing's wrong. Biden won. Conspiracy theorists are the only one who doubt anything. If
there's
you say that,
no evidence. I've heard this in person.
Here's the thing. The media, much to their dismay, I guess, do not get to choose who the president of the United States is going to be. They do not get to choose who the premier of your province is, or the governor of my state is, or anything else. They don't get to make that determination. You do, and I do. And when the media's, here's what the thing is, that for years, the media, in 2016, the media came out and said, Trump wins. He's got, based on all of our calculations, he's got 306 electoral votes. Okay. But the media didn't make that decision, right? The states did. The states reporting did. And so the states reporting, it went to the desk at Fox or NBC or wherever it went. And they said, this looks like there's 80% in. There's no way that Hillary Clinton there's only 50,000 votes left to count. There's no way that Hillary Clinton, even if she got all 50,000 of those votes, will win the state. So they make that call. And so people think that, the media is making that call. Well, they are, but they're not. The state is.
Yeah.
And here's the other interesting thing. They just had the CEO of Twitter,
Jack Dorsey.
Dorsey give what do they call it? Like
an boy.
Yeah, deposition, or he was talking under an investigation on the Hill.
Yeah.
And he says that they don't. Oh, he absolutely lied.
Well, this gives you an idea where they're going to go if Biden succeeds in taking the White House, is that they're now openly censoring the president during the election.
Oh, yeah.
That just tells you what their plans are now.
When you get older, you're going to see the warning signs. Mark Zuckerberg is Fidel Castro in flip-flops. Meow Meow Beans is going to make East Berlin look like Woodstock. You take my word for that.
Well, the part I was getting at is that now, if you say anything like the vote was stolen, or there's evidence of this, or look at this, now they're putting like a little connection, like an algorithm is putting a little header at the bottom of any of your tweets that says officials have called this election differently. What the fuck are you talking about? No official has said anything. The media said it. No official determination of the ballots has been made yet.
Did you guys run into this? When was your election with Trudeau, Prime Minister? Last year or year before?
Last year.
Last year. Did you guys run into anything like that? Because you know what? I can't find, not that I know very many Canadians, okay? On Twitter, though, probably out of my 500 people I follow, 10% are Canadians. I guarantee you, at least 10% are Canadians. And I cannot find one person on that list of Canadians that said that they voted for Trudeau. You know who Godless Mom is, right? Courtney Heard. As left as you can get, right?
Yep.
And so I kind of teased her the other day about, well, you're a Trudeau voter. She goes, oh my God, please don't accuse me of that ever.
She probably voted NDP.
She got mad at me for that. She actually got mad at me for that. Oh my God.
He's a national disgrace. Really, did you hear during your election? Okay, so following your election, Trump was winning, and then they shut down the count. I think it was 2 days later when the media was saying, "Oh, Biden's clearly won now." Did you hear what our prime minister said?
No, I didn't. See, again, I don't hear anything.
Well, this one more Americans should hear. He said, "If Donald Trump does not adhere to this result, we should make sure international forces should come in and make sure that he must adhere to the vote."
Oh, wait, I did hear that.
As a threat of military intervention in the United States.
You tweeted that out, didn't you?
Yes.
Oh, he's such a joke.
That's where I saw that.
Whether or not, obviously we can't do that, but even if we could, let's say we had a big enough military, because we don't. We've got, was it 30,000 people altogether? 40,000?
I don't know. Like the two drunk guys with a canoe and like a rusty
That's
gun.
including our reserves, right? I think it's like less than 20,000 regulars.
Like I know guys in the military here. Like our military's good, but it's super small.
But I'm sorry. I was in the military and I served with Canadians, and I'm not blowing smoke. Canadian troops are really good troops.
That's good. Okay? Yeah. And I know we have
British troops are good troops. Australian troops. I've served with a lot of Aussies. Aussie troops are like fabulous. I mean, I don't put down troops.
Yeah, I'm proud of
their civilian leadership.
Yeah. I'm proud of our soldiers. I know a couple of people who've been in the military. I'm proud of them. And I think that they often don't get treated as well as they should once they're out of the military.
Especially by Trudeau.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's not about a statement about them, but just the statement he said is ridiculous because of the size of our military. Like we wouldn't be able to intervene in the United States, even if we really thought it was important. But for one ally to say that about another allied nation during their election, that's not just irresponsible. I think that's a crime. Like I think it's a violation of some kind of treaty or something.
That should be criminal. But you know, we've left everything else behind that used to be normal. You know, during election years and just, you know, we now have former officials going offshore making terrible comments. You know, offshore being going to Canada or going to England or going to Mexico or wherever, and saying things about our president or our government in general, you know, defaming it. That used to never happen. 30 years ago, that never happened.
Right.
And now it's common. Now it's common. I bet it's common in your country as well. Now, years ago, it was just not proper etiquette.
They would say it's not statesman.
Exactly. It's and so if you're going to criticize, you do it from onshore within the country. You don't wait till you go to England or, you know, somewhere else to criticize your own country.
Yeah.
And that's what's changed in 30 years. It's a terrible thing. But again, like I was saying earlier, I sit here in the United States. I know nothing about Canada.
You're better off.
I had to look this up. You know, Godless Mom again. I'm mentioning her again. You may want to cut this out because she's mad at me. Anyway.
Well, I'm sure she has a sense of humor.
She tweeted out that in British Columbia, she said, it's time for everybody to lock down. Now, I don't know if she was serious or not. There's 589 cases, COVID cases.
Oh, the cases thing, yeah. Oh, my goodness.
And so I tweeted back and I said, because I had to look this up. The population of British Columbia is 5.1 million.
Yeah.
589 cases out of a population of 5.1 million is 1 times 10 to the minus fourth. Minus fourth.
Yeah. Listen, dude, years ago, somebody brought up this clip. I remember it was South Park. This is years ago, and they had this joke where the what's that guy, Stan's dad? What's his name?
Oh, Randy.
Randy's laying there, and everyone's pretending like they're dying in South Park, and he's like, listen, Stan, I got to talk to you before it's too late. And he's like, what? Everything's fine. And he's like, no, only 99.99% of us are going to survive this. I need to talk to you before it's too late. And this is what has happened.
I know. I mean, the government itself, our government puts out, it says that if you're below, I'm 65. Okay. I've already told you guys that. But if you're below 60, your chance of survival of COVID, of the Wuhan virus, is 99.98%. If you're below 70, it's 99.94 or something like that, right? 99.9, but still it's 99.9%. It's only people that are above 75 with pre-existing conditions that are at most risk. And we're locking down and we're wearing masks everywhere. And my kid can only attend school 2 days a week. The rest of it is virtual.
It's completely insane. We call it mass hysteria, but it's prolonged, right? Mass hysteria is in fits. So this is do you know Douglas Murray?
Mm-hmm.
So he has a book out. I highly recommend it if you haven't read it. It's called The Madness of Crowds, where a gay man, the author, Douglas Murray, has to call out the LGBTQ, something, whatever else is in there now, and he details how they've gone completely insane and why so many gay people don't want to be associated with this political movement. And it's exactly what's happening now on a larger scale. And what he says is his main premise for this book is that our main mistake was not that we didn't notice this was crazy and didn't laugh at them. It's that we laughed at them instead of realizing it would be in our government, that it would be in our schools, that it would be on our news, that it would be every part of our life would now be controlled by this.
Wow. Yeah, I'm going to have to look at that, see if I can pick that up. There's a PSA that's been playing down here from the Human Rights Campaign.
Okay.
I don't know if it's been playing in Canada. And it's all trans people.
Yeah.
Okay. That we're human too. Yes, of course you're human. Okay. And yes, you have human rights, like every other human has rights, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't need, I don't like anybody's sexuality foisted upon me.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're homosexual, heterosexual, trans, or whatever. There was this thing, and I wrote a post on it a couple of years ago. There was this big thing about trans people, about trans women, that straight guys won't date trans women. And I thought, really? You're kidding me. Why would that be?
It's okay.
And so because straight men won't date trans women, there's something wrong with the straight men.
Yeah, well, because discrimination is usually inappropriate unless you're talking about your own relationship with someone. Like who you choose as a partner has to be a form of discrimination because you're choosing the person you're going to live your life with, ideally, right? And even if you don't live your whole life together, you're connected romantically. So this is pushing the idea of you shouldn't discriminate into the realm of unhealthiness, right? Let's say they're
like making your own choices, right?
Yes.
If I'm a straight guy and I want to date a trans woman, it's like, you know who Blair White is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. A trans woman, and she's gone through the whole change, right? And I actually say she. I don't call most of them. I call it because they have not bothered. There's this thing out there that says it's a woman that has a beard like yours. I'm looking at yours right now. Has a
my
beard,
feminine long, beard.
Yes, and
I'm working on it becoming a Santa beard.
But but she's gone through the whole change. And even she says these people are ridiculous.
Yeah. So she has problems with them all the time, including being attacked on the street.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Did you see that when someone threw some weird shit in her face and she didn't know what it was?
Yeah.
Anyways, have you ever read through Brave New World? It was originally written in the 30s by
I think I read that in high school. Yeah.
by Huxley.
Yeah. I think if you're going to quote it and ask me if I remember something, I probably will not.
No, but I mean, you can even, on the old version anyways of the movie, you can even see this in the movie, but there's a chant that they have. I'm not talking about the Orgy Porgy one. They have one in their community teaching sessions. Community, identity, stability is their motto for society. So community is group rights over individual rights. Identity is the one we've been getting hammered with for the last 20 years. That's what this is about. And then they promise safety. That's what stability means. So we have literally come into Brave New World. The only thing we're missing are growing babies and test tubes. Everything else is happening.
Nope. We're doing that too.
Are we?
Yep, we are. Not to 39 weeks, but yeah, we are.
We're so amazing as a species. We can literally turn on ourselves in our best years and destroy ourselves.
Yeah, I know. So sorry, go ahead, Jim.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm off camera, so you don't know when I'm about to say anything. So, my question to you would be just to bring it back to the election a little bit, and then because we're going to jump around because it all seems intertwined. It's almost impossible to not kind of cross over all these topics. But as far as all these legal challenges go, I know that you're not a prophet. We're not prophets, but where do you see this going?
I think it'll be resolved within by Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving here is coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
the end of November, right? So I think that it'll all be resolved one way or the other. What I think will happen is we'll have another 4 years of Trump.
Really? Yeah.
Well,
because I say that. Here's my reasoning. And we've discussed this. You guys have both said this. The irregularities are so egregious.
Yeah.
In one direction. If it was in both directions, right? If there was like egregious, like let's say that actually Trump did win Wisconsin like he did last time, but by 10,000 votes like he did last time. But now this time he won it by 500,000 votes. That might be.
They all came in overnight.
Yeah. Then there might be some little back and forth, but this is all in one direction.
Yeah.
And so I think of course, here's where it's going to go. That's why I say it's going to happen within a couple of weeks, because it doesn't matter what the district courts say. The federal judge that you were talking about earlier, Stickman.
Yep.
He's a district court judge. His rulings are only good for, he can't make a ruling that affects people nationally, even though they've tried to do this. That's not their job. The circuit court can, which is the appeals court. There are, I think there's 11 of them. I may be wrong, but I think there's 11 circuit courts in the United States. There needs to be actually more. Their rulings are regional and can be national. Okay, depending. And then there's the Supreme Court. Well, we can't wait for months while it goes district court to district court to district court to district court to circuit court to circuit court to circuit court. You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
That takes months.
So you think it's going to get pulled up to the Supreme Court?
Immediately. The Supreme Court has already said, Justice Alito has already told Pennsylvania, you cannot count those votes that came in on November 4th.
And didn't
you can count them. You can count them. You can count them, but they cannot count towards the vote of the population. You can count them, but they have to stay separate.
So basically, you think the Supreme Court's going to say when the polls shut down after the night of the election, that's when the count's going to be cut off.
Here's the thing. Constitutionally, the election is on the first Tuesday in November. Every state has their own rules about it as well, right? For instance, they set the time when the polls open and close. I think where I live, I voted early, but it's like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay. Other states, it's later, Other states may have it like 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. or something like that. Oh, that's fine. But there has to be an opening and a closing on November 3rd, on the first Tuesday. That's it.
Yeah, I've heard other people.
And no court, Pennsylvania decided, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court decided on its own that no, any ballots that come in by the 6th of November can be counted.
Yeah.
Sorry, the judiciary cannot make that. That the legislature has to make that decision.
Okay,
and then
activist judges. Don't you love them?
It's an activist judge.
Yeah. I have to make a decision based on what I morally think is right. Law be damned.
And they can't do that because the legislature can make that change, right?
Yeah.
But then it's going to be challenged at the federal level.
So what
because
did you...
the election is constitutionally the first Tuesday in November.
So what did you think was going to happen?
Oh no, I was just curious what a citizen of the United States would kind of think, because I think they're going to try and do the recounts, but I don't know that they're going to be able to get a recount or an audit and then the Supreme Court all done. I think like they can try and overlap these things. Like I'm not going the conspiracy theorists where they're like, oh, they have a watermark on the ballots. Well,
maybe they do, but I don't know anything about that.
Right. But I think that no matter which way it swings, it kind of serves the purposes of the people that we've been fighting against. Because if they want fundamental revolution, they got to think that on some level they got a shot at it, right? So it's either they win the presidency and then they fundamentally remake the country, or they lose the presidency, whether by legal means or by electoral means, and then I don't know. Do you think they'd be dumb enough to call in international aid and say that Trump just stole the election and pack the court and like?
Well, I agree largely with what I've heard. I think it's going to be pulled up to the Supreme Court because of deadlines, right? And I'm not an expert in how the Supreme Court makes all of its rulings. I know other people know a lot more about this. But I would be surprised if the court doesn't make some kind of a statement, at least, about the innate problems of each state doing everything differently.
No, that's fine. No, I hope they don't do that.
Well, no, but I don't mean specifically in the sense that they're not going to say there's a problem theoretically with the states carrying out the election for the presidential election. And I don't mean senators and congressmen, but specifically the presidential election, which is purely federal, right? I don't think they're going to say that. But what I think they're going to say is, if we have this, there's got to be limits to the rules that they can set for themselves that still make them obligated to their responsibilities to the federal election.
There are, and that those rules are laid out in the United States Constitution, and that's why you have states, and that's why they give them some leeway. Okay, you're the first Tuesday in November, but 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., or 10 p.m., or that's up to you, right? But it's the first Tuesday in November only, except with the exception of, and this is what Congress voted on like years ago, military ballot, right?
Yeah.
Because you're deployed. I was in Iraq in 2004, right?
Yeah.
And so I if I wanted to vote, I had to let my command know by like May that I intended to vote. My home state at that time was Colorado. Okay, so they had to be able to get an absentee ballot for me.
Yeah. I think everyone, I think generally, largely, everyone agrees that there's going to be absentee ballots, the military. There's going to be some situations that are different, but I think that the mail-in ballots that have come in this time around have really shown a serious problem. So if the states have the right technically to do that, to choose for themselves, I think the Supreme Court in that particular instance is going to say, like, I don't think they're going to necessarily go, we're going to make an order they can't do it anymore. But I think they're going to at least make a statement saying that this is too much chaos, that some people are doing massive amounts of counting through mail-in ballots sometimes with no checks to even match up the signature. Some states don't even need to do that.
Exactly.
I don't know if you knew this, because I was talking to a guy who had the French flag on his Twitter handle. I won't name him, but we were going back and forth pretty hard. And so you
strangled him, right?
That's right. I stabbed him. So
I was in France in 2019. I still hate France. And I spent a month there. I took my daughter to the Women's World Cup.
Okay. The only reason I bring it up is because this guy was like, you people are all nuts. And I'm like, listen, all I'm calling for is investigation. And this went round and round where all he would do is mock me and sidestep. He would never say whether he was for or against an investigation. And he's just being an idiot. But anyway, so I brought up the fact that in France, the flag on his own handle, mail-in ballots are illegal. They ban them. Did you know that?
Wow.
And the reason they did, and I gave him this link too, was because of research. Research that has been done thoroughly showing whenever there is mail-in ballots, there's a surge in fraud in any country where this is done. And that's followed up with research. So the French government made a very rational decision in this case. I don't know, maybe they were feeling sick and they didn't know what they were doing, but they decided to ban them. And they've made some exceptions for the COVID, I think, within the country. But so these liberals, this is what I'm talking about. They don't really care about whether there was fraud. What they seem to care about is that Trump needs to be taken out.
Well, what they care about is power. Okay, it's a power play.
Well, the important thing is the error was discovered and corrected. You've been elected president. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Admiral. Now about this error. Exactly what kind of a tabulating error could have occurred on your ship that could have swung several thousand votes away from me in favor of your preferred candidate, Admiral? As soon as I have the time, there will be an investigation.
I suggest that you take your victory and you leave it at that, Doctor.
I think you'll find I can be magnanimous in victory, Admiral. And I believe the correct honorific at this time is Mr. President-elect.
And I'm not against mail-in ballots, like absentee ballots, right?
When necessary,
We've had it forever here in the United States. Again, you call up, or now that we have the internet, you used to have an excuse, right? I'm going to be out of state on business or out of the country, or I'm crippled, or whatever. Oh, I'm sorry, I used a bad word there. I'm disabled.
What are you, like?
Disabled, and I can't leave the house.
I've fallen. You press the button. I've fallen.
So you used to have, but now you don't even have to have an excuse. You could just, I could have gone online and gone over here and type it up, and they would have sent me a ballot in the mail, right? And I follow the instructions, and I put it back in the post and send it back, and that's fine. But I requested it, right? It wasn't sent to me, just because I'm on a list. I requested that ballot. And that's been going on in this country forever that I know about, at least my entire life. And now we have early voting as well. Like, I went and voted. Our early voting started second week of October, I think, maybe. And I went down to the elementary school a couple miles away, probably the week after early voting, and holy cow, there was a ton of people there and voted, right?
Yeah.
And early voting is fine. You're still showing up in person.
Yep.
And putting in your vote, right? That's all fine. But this mass mailing thing is what is killing them. And I think that's why Trump will prevail, I think, eventually. And of course, that'll mean that more people will hate him for the next 4 years. I guarantee you. Here's what I will guarantee. Mark this down. I want you to put this in big, bold letters when you put this out, onto the internet, is that because the Democrats still will control the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi will impeach him again.
Oh, I'm sure that they're going to try that again.
Yeah, they will. They will impeach him. I mean, they did impeach, right?
Impeachment
occurs in the House, right, where they vote to impeach, and then the trial occurs in the Senate, whether he's convicted or not, and that he wasn't convicted of any wrongdoing. So, but the House will impeach him again. One
of the things I forgot to mention about that's significant about that Christopher Hitchens article about 2004 in Ohio was that he dismisses, he eliminates the argument that you have to be a conspiracy theorist to believe in a rigged election now that these machines are being used, because when he talks to this expert, he asks her straight out, like, how would you need to have a huge cabal of people, like a massive number of people all working in conjunction with these machines in order to fix an election? And she says, all right, no. No. Very, very few people actually operate the machines in a few select companies, and almost no one knows how they work.
And there's only, if you think about the software that operates, is a very small group of people at each that does the updates to that software for those machines. And that's why I say the best machines are like what I'm talking about. They're just scanners, like at where I live, right? They don't do anything. They don't tabulate. They tabulate on a hard drive, right? But that's it. And I guess that could be manipulated somehow where, like when I lived in Colorado, the last time I voted in Colorado, I think was 2000, before I went overseas again. And Colorado had a ballot that said, vote, you circle in all Democratic, right? Or all Republican. So you didn't have to go and mark, for George W. Bush or Al Gore. Or Senator.
You had the option of just...
You could just say, I want to vote all Republican.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Or all Democrat, which is cool. And then, of course, there's ballot initiatives and stuff like that that you have to still mark. But as far as like people, if they're in a party, you could just do that, and that's enough. That's all you really need to do. If you're a Republican, that's all you really need to do. I'm not a Republican, so I vote for the person, not the party. So I do. I mean,
absolutely.
I actually voted for Bill Clinton in 1996.
Oh,
you know why?
You lose your card, your conservative card.
You know why? Because he was smart.
Yeah, about the economy, right?
He left people alone.
Yeah.
And the economy boomed under him. The internet, the electronics, Apple, Microsoft, all these companies boomed under him. Why? He left them alone.
He understood people. Now, maybe he's a rapist. I never got a clear answer on that from the process. But
I think in his personal life, he's a scumbag piece of crap. Right? But
did you hear the account? Like some of the accounts I've heard, obviously, they're hearsay, people behind the scenes during the last election. But one of the ones I heard that I'll remember for years is that before the notorious Hillary basket of deplorables comment, the speech that night, apparently backstage, Bill Clinton literally said to her, "I am begging you, please do not say that." And she ignored him.
I've heard that. I've heard that story.
And the story makes sense.
I actually believe it because he is a really smart guy. Yeah. And I think I really believe that's what lost it for her. Because for me, like in 2008, when John McCain ran, he was my senator here in Arizona, right? This is another. My
condolences.
Yeah, this is another problem. I've lived here since 2005. Okay, I've never met anybody who ever voted for John McCain. And I mean, I know people in Phoenix, the area, right? I've never met anybody in Arizona that ever voted for him, ever, for senator, ever.
And he was in for how many years?
900,015 or something. I mean, he won election.
His first election was on a brontosaurus.
The only time he was threatened was in 2010. Okay, and in 2010 it was amazing. And he was primaried by this really wacko right wing dude. He was a local radio host, JD somebody, who was primarying him, right? Far right wing guy. And McCain had to spend like $20 million in the state to win that primary in 2010. I mean, you saw his ads on TV where he was in his cowboy hat and cowboy boots and jeans, right? Walking along the border. This was a year after there was a rancher that was killed here by illegals, right, at the border. A rancher.
I think I remember that.
So that was a big deal. That was a big deal here in Arizona. So he was out talking with ranchers, looking like, a cowboy. And so somehow they reelected him. I didn't vote for him then. I didn't vote for him in 2008. And nobody I know voted for him ever. How did this guy get elected?
Yeah, don't worry. The media will tell you. They'll do an investigation immediately. And
but then you saw like Cindy McCain here this time on TV on a campaign ad for Joe Biden because Trump said this guy really wasn't wasn't really a hero, right? You know what? There's a bunch of us that were in the military that were actually in combat.
Yeah.
I spent 30 years in combat. No, this guy was not a hero. He got shot down on his second combat mission. You know why? Because he was an awful pilot.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I also heard that he basically turned favorite when he was in prison, and other guys were not too happy about the way they were treated.
Oh yeah, exactly. No, he was treated poorly. Admittedly, he was treated poorly. He was tortured. I agree. There's no problem. I have no problem with any of that part of the story. But this guy was. I'm sorry. You're a terrible pilot. The only reason he graduated from the Naval Academy was because his father was a 4-star admiral and his grandfather was a 4-star admiral.
Yeah, nepotism.
Bingo.
Were you going to say something?
Oh, no, it's fine. He just kind of touched on all the points, so there's no point for me to interject.
This guy is like the most hated in Arizona, as far as I can tell, at least among veterans, the most hated guy ever to get elected to the Senate time after time after time.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the people willing to do dirty deeds behind the scenes. It's who you know, not what you know, right? So in Canada, we have, so I've been trying to educate people about this for a long time. I'm convinced, and I think there's good reason to believe that our conservative, like on the federal and the provincial level, the conservative and the liberal parties are both now run by the same people who run the Liberal Party. In fact, there are comments from our previous Prime Minister, Harper, that indicate that he felt that this is what was happening to the Conservative Party when he ran it. And he has not returned to politics. So I think it's a pretty strong indicator that he was right. So what happens is, so in Ontario, our Conservative Party was led by the last 3 leaders we had. The first one is now the mayor of Toronto. No, not the first one, but so John Tory, he was one of them. He lost the election and he was trying to bring in all liberal things under the Conservative Party as their main thing. And now as mayor of Toronto, all of his policies are far left, but he's the leader of the Conservative Party. And then you had,
downtown dirty Patrick Brown.
And this dude is a complete left-wing dingbat. He's
the mayor of Brampton right now, and he got busted by Rebel News, renting out an arena playing hockey during the height of the pandemic with his buddies, while everyone else wasn't allowed to go.
Yeah, but he was handing out tons of tickets, like $800 tickets to people and stuff like that.
I love it.
And we had, there was another one too. I can't, off the top of my head. What's that?
McGinty? No,
there's another, I can't remember right now, but he also was like far left once he left. It was obvious. And now
Rebel
we've got
News has to be like, to me, you guys read Babylon Bee?
Yes.
Yeah. That is the paper of record. It's satire,
it is,
right? But it is, but it is the paper of record.
It is.
Go back 6 months and look at every day's Babylon Bee, and you will. And they predicted what's going on right now 6 months ago. But again, like Rebel News, I started reading. I don't know where it may have been you again. That you tweeted something in Rebel News, and I'm like, what is this? And I look at it. I look at Rebel News every day.
Yeah, they're very, they're audacious and they're willing to go against the grain, which is what we need.
Yeah, they are very much like, this is messed up.
You're making a face.
Of course I make a face, because I think Rebel News does a great discredit to people who are of an opposition to the left. Like, they're just so gotcha. It's like the National Enquirer. It's not that the information that they share isn't accurate, and it's not that it doesn't bring attention to things that it needs to bring attention to. It's just the way they do it is so sensationalized and so ridiculous that it almost seems like satire itself. And it kind of, I feel like it discredits.
It doesn't come across as very professional sometimes, is what you're basically getting at. Like, it's kind of tacky in certain ways.
Okay.
So I can agree with that. Yeah, but that's my attitude at this point.
I say so what? Because there's so many.
What else do we have?
Well, no, I say so what, not because what else do we have, but because there's so many other venues. So you can take a look at Rebel News, and I take a look at it and I go, wow, is that really true?
And then you can check it.
Yeah.
And then I go and look at other venues, right? And I find out, what they're saying here, basically, I mean, you're right that they did kind of go over the top in their presentation of it. But yeah, this actually happened.
So every now and then, one of their reporters, there's some that are better than others, right? But one of their reporters will say, they'll come up to someone, they'll start by asking a question that's somewhat neutral, but then the politician doesn't want to talk to them. So then they start asking questions that are very pointed. And so that's what I consider, that's not very professional. Like, they're lowering themselves by doing that. But on the other hand, where else am I going to go to find someone who's willing to even ask that question in any way?
No. Like, look. To their credit, they do bring attention to things that get ignored, right? But it is hard not. There are some people that don't do what you and I do. When we see something from Rebel News, I think you do the same thing I do, and that's check their sources. Kind of look in the background and see if there's any truth to it beyond just them saying, gotcha, right? But a lot of people just don't do that. They pick the narrative that they want to listen to, the one that agrees with their worldview, and then they stick to it. And I find that a lot of people who share Rebel News and whatever, it doesn't matter if you share a dozen other sources that support it, you are immediately labeled the same as like QAnon anymore. All right, like is QAnon a big thing down in Arizona?
Well, in the United States, it is. You remember when Trump was asked about QAnon? He's like, what? Who's Q? What's QAnon?
Yeah.
Right. And they thought, oh my God, the president of the United States doesn't even know what QAnon is. 90% of the people in the world have no idea what QAnon is.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I have read some of the crap that comes from there. And notice I use the word crap.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what to believe when they say that when they
The
make
Great Awakening's coming. You're watching a movie.
Yeah, I look towards other ways of looking at what the problems are. I honestly just haven't even looked into what that is. I know that
I agree with you. I don't even know what that is. I've asked people who are. I have a couple of friends here locally that are like always talk about Q and QAnon and whatever. Right? They go, "What is this? Is this a person? Is this a?"
I think it was their handle, right? Q Anonymous.
Yeah. Is this a small group, and how do they have access to information? You can hack. Anybody can hack. I used to have a certified ethical hacker license, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
You know what a certified ethical hacker is, right? You can go get go to a class and get a certification, basically, in hacking.
So it just says up front that you can do it. You're not trying to hide it.
Well, the idea is that companies will hire you so that if they think they've been hacked, you can go in and forensically look to see.
Yeah.
But anyway, who are these people? What kind of people are they? And are they left, right, center, non? Are they anarchists? And none of the people a couple of people that I know can tell me anything about it other than you have to believe what they say. Why?
Well, I think that the appeal is that it gives people a sense of having all the answers very quickly from one source. And I think this is kind of continued as to why the news media is such a destructive force. The same kind of phenomenon, only from the opposite end of the spectrum. QAnon is like, secretive and against the grain. And the same problem is when people look at the news and go, well, I have to believe this because it's official and professional.
Yeah.
The truth is that information, most people have very little of it. You have to look around. You have to do a little bit of work on your own on putting together, like we're talking about comparisons.
Right.
But the stuff that they go on about, like I've read a couple of these posts and like, look, there are people that follow me on Twitter, that go on about QAnon and this Great Awakening, kind of like the antithesis to the Great Reset. And a couple of videos that I've been linked to, I've watched them. Man, it is a rabbit hole that you go down. Like, I think Trump could win on legal challenge too. I think that there's a lot of janky shit going on, but like, do I think it's going to bring down the entire establishment Democrats and the establishment Republicans, drain the swamp, so to speak? I don't know. But I mean, there was one video I watched where somebody tried to claim that Q is actually like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's still alive in a bunker somewhere in front of a MacBook. Like, get out.
With Elvis, right?
Like, what are you going on about, man?
Man, if all these famous people that are secretly still alive are all in one place, be very crowded.
It's John Lennon.
It's John Lennon.
Everybody knows it's John Lennon. Come on.
Yeah, with Martin Luther King Jr.
He's still up there in the Dakota. He's just been hiding out for 40 years.
This would make, I'm just thinking that this is the type of stuff my brain does. This would make a great idea for a TV show, like an animated show, where there's a town of all these famous people that are still alive, but everyone thinks they're dead. Do you know how many famous voice actors would want to be doing voices for this show? They could do all their favorite impressions.
Right. And the only person that gets to go in and out of the town who's not dead or missing yet is Betty White.
That's right. She's the one that goes back and forth to communicate with this city.
Yeah, that's kind of amazing. Yeah. Do you guys ever watch like Family Guy?
Oh yeah.
That's a hilarious show.
Yeah.
I cannot believe it's allowed on TV, by the way.
Yeah.
In the United States. I don't know about Canada, but in the United States, because it's homophobic, it's Islamophobic, it's xenophobic, it's misogynist, it's sexist. It's what were all those things that Hillary Clinton said?
Yeah.
And Seth MacFarlane is a liberal.
Oh yeah. Well,
okay.
that's
but it's all those things, right? It's the most hilarious cartoon show ever. I at first used to not allow my daughter to watch this because it's like it's very adult, right? This is very adult stuff.
Yeah.
But then I realized she already knew this shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, my language.
No, you can say whatever you want on our show.
Well, I try not to curse. I actually do try not to curse.
Yeah, just like a self thing.
Well, because it's not a way of speaking. You know, if I'm arguing with you and I say motherfucker, son of a bitch, blah, 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 blah. Well, did I make my argument? No. If I say, you're wrong because XYZ, then maybe I've made my argument. Maybe not, but at least I've made it in a coherent fashion.
Well, I've not made a great first impression.
And I don't want my daughter. I don't want my daughter to grow up and think it's perfectly fine. I used to work with a woman a long time ago. She's from South Boston. I know I'm tangenting here. Who every other word almost out of her mouth was a variation of fuck.
Stick your cock up her ass, you motherfucking worthless cocksucker.
Be silent.
Oh!
There are many of them.
She was from South Boston, and that's the way she grew up. She was the nicest person in the world, the most compassionate, loving. I mean, she was a wife and mother, and she was just a terrific, funny, gregarious, all that kind. But that's the way she grew up talking.
Yeah.
So
that's it's about consequences, right? So you're just looking at it not from the point of view of right or wrong, so much as what are the potential consequences of how I express myself and how it's received.
Exactly. Yeah. So if I come across and curse at you all the time, it's like I see people on Twitter, certain people on Twitter saying, well, it shouldn't matter if I use the F word or the whatever word. And I go, well, I ignore you when you do that.
Yep. Well,
why? Because it's lazy speech.
You're probably not going to pay attention to me a lot then.
I do. I do like the last episode you guys did a few weeks ago. I mean, you were Smash. You were like out there, right? I was laughing so hard.
Okay, so I'm gonna kind of give our listeners a little bit of a background as to why I was really because I was a little off the last episode, right, Jim?
Off. We're off. You were free.
Okay, so August 28th, I was doing a reno at my house, and I ran my left hand through a table saw. So I broke all 4 fingers on my left hand. I've lost about a 1/4 inch off of my index finger, and I pulverized the bone in that finger. So I've been having bone splints kind of poking their way out of the skin for the last month and a half. If you see Dragonbeard cringing, it's because I still have an open wound 2 months later. But
I'm looking at it.
Yeah, it's bad.
Oh God!
So the last episode, I was on hydromorphines.
Like hydrocodone?
Morphine. Yeah, morphine. I was on
morphine.
I was on morphine, and I was like, because the pain has been so bad.
You know what? Here, I'm going to make a suggestion. Get that prescription renewed because you were really good.
So nothing you said didn't make sense. I think he's getting at is you were just saying whatever came to your mind and you were just having a good time with it.
You were just like out there and it's like, wow. I said, these guys are great. I have missed apostasy now.
I'm like the Gregory House of podcasting. When am I?
Yeah. So, we stopped doing the show for about 2 years, just because of our own personal stuff. And then, as a stress relief, we started doing a few episodes where we just talked to each other.
Yeah.
And then I started getting back into editing. It took me a while to kind of get back to speed.
Only 9 weeks between episodes.
Yeah, but now we're doing video editing as well, right? So I have to find that balance of too much time putting into it versus what we're getting out of it. Anyways, so yeah, it's like, I felt like I was a little bit out of practice or whatever, but why not? You know what? I can't remember why I started talking about that.
It was much easier, in my day. When it was, we were doing Skype, right? When we started Chill Girls, for instance, right?
Yeah.
And it was Skype, and we'd have guests on. Do you remember Al? I can't remember his name. Atheist. We were talking about atheism.
Al Stefanelli.
Stefanelli.
Yes. Yep. He used to be with Reed Payton a lot on his show.
Yeah, and we'd have Reap on as well.
Yeah,
we'd have
Reed
Al
Payton.
and Reap on at the same time. And these were like the funniest episodes we ever had.
Yeah.
Right? We'd have thousands of listens, thousands and thousands of people listening.
Yeah.
Not live because they weren't live, right? They were like this. This is not live, right?
We're like the Biden rally of listens right now, like 12, like dozens upon dozens.
No, that's what I was going to say, is that people started contacting us and saying, you need to do more episodes. Like, come on, get them out. And when we started doing it, I realized that while we were off for 2 years, we had it slowed down our numbers. Like, I don't have a very good system for finding the numbers, but there is one. And then I started noticing the numbers were going back up. And the only thing I can think is that we were not leftist in our angle, right? And people were desperate in the atheist and skeptic circles to hear something. And the ones who hadn't been listening to us before would find our stuff and start going through our catalog.
I remember you guys from back then too. And I think you were the only other ones. There was like 2 or 3 podcasts I listened to, and yours was definitely one of them. There was this guy, I listened to him for a very short amount of time. The Atheist, something or other.
That's a great
dude.
He said that's a great name.
He was a long-haired dude, and he was just kind of like weird, you know. And I don't know. Anyway, there's some people's stuff I couldn't watch, or listen to, depending.
Yeah.
Our stuff was audio. We eventually went to Blog Talk Radio, right?
Yes.
Where we could do live.
I remember a number of shows
around?
went there. I don't know, but it was a lot of difficulties technically with trying to navigate that site.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was for me as the with the girls as the technical guy. It made it a lot easier because I could upload, our intro stuff. I could do all the intro stuff like a day ahead of time, right? And again, it's all audio, so no video stuff and to worry about, and upload all that stuff, and then like fire it off, and we would have guests on and callers. And
yeah, I remember that site really well. I remember when you guys went there. There was a few other ones that I listened to that went there eventually too.
I would love to have live callers on this show. Like, I could just imagine like people locally, if they get like heard about our show, they'd be like, "You guys are a bunch of fucking nutbars." Oops.
Well, we just we haven't put enough consistent time in. But along with back in the day, like we're talking about the atheist movement, it was building up with the internet. So some people that got in early, like we're talking about Reed Payton and Al, on their show, they had a huge following because they followed that wave up. Other shows did as well. But now with guys like us, man, we put out stuff and very few people relative to that, catch on and start
really
sharing it.
What's really interesting is you've been around longer than I have, online. What I'm saying is like online. Now, I don't mean, historically, or
Yeah.
I realize you're like 35 or something, but
I don't know. I'm almost 44.
Oh wow!
I just have a baby face underneath all this hair.
41 here.
You could be one of my other unknown kids. I don't know. Anyway, but it's what I'm saying is online. I mean, when I met you online like 10 years ago, right? At least 10 years ago.
It would have been
on Twitter.
I don't know. It would have been
Twitter.
Possibly. I think it would have been 2012 then.
Okay, and then
8 years ago.
Close enough.
Holy crap! It's already been 8 years.
Because that's about the time I joined Twitter, was 2012, and so I'm finding all these atheists, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking for something. I don't know why I joined Twitter. Somebody said, "Hey, well, you can find atheists on Twitter." Because where I live in a town of about 50,000 people. I think there's 3 atheists here. Maybe four.
Maybe four.
My daughter, I'm not sure about. So, but because I don't force her into believing what I believe in.
Right, I'm the same way. Yeah, my daughter knows that. Even if we disagree, I still love her. Like she can come up with her own conclusions.
Her life.
Yeah.
I want her to live a good life.
No, I don't give my kids the option. Fuck that. I'm a terrible father.
And you know what? You're a good Christian father.
I was going to make a joke about you smacking them around, so I guess that falls right into that.
Oh, I don't know. Like, I mean,
you know what? Here's the thing. Have you ever noticed this? I grew up. My father was in the military, right? and we moved around, not a great deal, but some. When I was really young, we went to chapel, right, on post. Right?
Yep.
And then at a certain point, it was like maybe at Easter and Christmas, if I wanted to, right? My father never went. This is during Vietnam. Now, there was one time when he was in Vietnam, actually, so of course he didn't go. But my father never went to church because he was raised to where they went to church. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, whatever choir practice was, blah, blah, blah. He was Church of Christ, right? They don't even have music in their no pianos. It's all a cappella. They're singing. So I grew up not with these people because we were away, but I have some cousins who grew up in that same church, right? Who, as soon as they graduated from high school and went off to college, they've never been to church since. Think about it.
Yeah.
You're forced to go to church from when you can remember, right? How early your memories are. And you're forced to go, and you're forced to sing, and you're forced to participate, Sunday school, whatever, church camp, whatever it is. And when you're 18, you graduated high school, that summer is your final summer of ever going to church again.
So on that note, I have to ask you this because we talked about, Justin brought this up when he was on Justin Vakula last episode. Have you found yourself yet in a situation where you're talking about issues of individual liberty and justice, and you find that you are on the side of a whole bunch of people of faith and most of the atheists are yelling against you?
I actually have.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually
That's
have.
weird.
Because you know what? Because I believe in the Constitution.
Oh yeah, that crazy notion.
There's this crazy thing, the First Amendment. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It doesn't just say freedom of speech. What is it? Go ahead, Smash. If you've got a laptop next to you, look up the U.S. First Amendment. What does it say? Does it say, what's the first thing it says? Freedom of speech? Freedom of assembly? No, it talks about freedom of religion.
Yep.
That's the first two parts of that are freedom of religion. Then it talks about freedom of speech, freedom of assembly.
Yeah, so First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people to peaceably assemble to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
Bingo.
Yeah.
But the first part of that is religion. And I respect people that I don't have to respect the religion, but if you want to believe, whatever you want to believe, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism. I've been to India. You ever been to India? Weird place. But Hindus are nice people. You know, you probably met Hindu people in your workplace, right? They're pleasant people. Believe what you want to believe. Don't force it on me.
That's the thing. That's the thing that's become important to me is if you can also stand up for individual rights, like my civil rights to believe or not believe as I want, to express myself freely, to not be detained without a just cause and due process. If you and I both agree on that, then the rest of it is really just up to leisure debate at this point for me, because these are the issues that are constantly seemingly at threat.
Yeah. See, and this is why, Jim, the U.S. Constitution, like, I believe it is in all ways superior to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms here in Canada. We did have the Bill of Rights, and then they added the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in the 1980s under the Trudeau's father. And when you really look,
hey, see, you know Canadian stuff. There you go.
Yeah.
So I lived in Canada when he was Prime Minister.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry.
He wasn't as bad as his son.
Even still.
Oh no, man, he was Hollywood.
Yeah.
He was Hollywood. That dude was Hollywood. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. But the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, now amended by his son to add in a special category for trans identity, sexual expression.
Yeah, try and compel speech, right?
Yeah, compelled speech that Jordan Peterson talked about. I was about to say Robert Jordan. He's an author. He's dead now too.
I hope he's not saying anything.
But so are you a fan of Jordan Peterson?
I'm a fan of him from time to time. Like, he's got some stuff out there that I enjoy. Okay,
just trying to set a datum point here.
Oh, okay, no problem. I don't mind if you disagree too, but that's...
No. I enjoy the guy. I like him. And even in conservative circles, Jordan Peterson is thought of as a wacko, at least where I live, where I'm at.
Oh, really?
In the U.S., somewhat of a wacko, not a wacko,
Yeah. There are things I disagree with him on, but of the stuff
I do too.
But he has a lot of salient, excellently described or expressed points about
freedom
the amount of new age Marxism and all this nonsense and how it's so the fact that he's the one that hammered home the term compelled speech on this issue. Yeah. And that's why people are now using it, is because of this guy. And he's exactly right that no government has the right to tell you what you must say. Period.
Guess what?
What?
Guess what? That just changed on November 3rd of this year. If Biden is president of the United States, he won't be president, by the way. Even if he is president, he won't be president.
No, he's a puppet.
Yeah. It will be what happens in the United States will flow into your country as well, believe it or not. Or wait. Or it will flow the other way, right? What has happened in your country will flow our way.
Shit rolls downhill, dude. Like, honestly, like the liberal ideas of Canada, like, honestly, the Dominion voting system is I think, part of that company is based out of Toronto.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
we're all one big family now.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say that we had something to do with stealing your election, but if you need another cold weather enemy to point a finger at, I think Canada should be your guys this time. Not Russia, Russia, Canada.
Well, luckily I'm an ethical hacker, and I think I can get access to the nuke codes.
But anyways, we always do this, or I always do this. I get off point. So what I'm saying is that our Charter of Rights and Freedoms is a vastly inferior document, even written in the 1980s, compared to something that was written 200 years ago. It is not a charter or a constitution of rights that are inalienable. They are negotiable.
It's not just ours. This is a common problem with England and all of its ex-colonies.
Yeah. Thank you, Smash and Dragon, for saying that. Because what I have said my entire life, there is no other country on the planet that has the rights of the individual established writing in law.
Maybe Sweden does.
Not only inalienable, but unalienable. Now, we can amend our Constitution, which we have 27 times, right?
Yeah.
But it takes years to do.
Yeah,
that.
like you guys could, over a long enough period of time, pardon my French, fuck up your Constitution so that it's worthless. We started off with one that was worthless.
Yeah.
Because every single fundamental freedom is subject to the necessary needs of a free and democratic society, which means that if they need to suspend our right to assemble, they can do so. If they need to suspend our rights to freedom of speech, they can do so.
And that's amazing to me. That is so amazing to me. We're in the 21st century. I was talking with, what's his name in England? Big podcaster dude.
Sargon?
Anyway, no. Oh, God, no. He hates me, by the way.
Oh, does he?
Oh, yeah, man. I took him down like some years ago. But about, freedom of speech, for instance. I was like, you guys have freedom of speech, right? I mean, in England, he goes, well, yeah, we do. But it's based on who controls Parliament at the time.
Yeah.
I said, what? He goes, yeah. I mean, we can have, no speech codes or anything like that. And then Parliament, 5 years, election occurs, Parliament changes out, Parliament creates a new law that says you cannot make any kind of like transphobic comment.
So can I just say really quickly, this is what I was going to tell you before, and it touches exactly on what you're talking about, is that in the United States, they got it 100% correct, which is these rights are already existing. Mm-hmm. The government does not grant them. It upholds them. But in our Constitution, it is clearly laid out the government generates and establishes rights. And at its leisure, we are afforded them.
Well, okay. But let's be clear here. Our founders established these rights. Why? They were all Renaissance men.
Yeah.
Right? They had all read, 17th century philosophy.
Yeah, the Enlightenment.
And, they were part of the Enlightenment, where where there was no duty to the sovereign, right? that the individual, there was the right of the individual, not to himself, not to the sovereign.
Yeah.
That's where that came from. And so, yes, it was from the government. Those rights were dictated by those people who were the government at the time.
Right, but that was
but what I'm saying is that the way they arranged it was that I couldn't just walk up and go into the Senate and say, "Hey, we're going to change the First Amendment to say that Canadians cannot speak on the internet in the United States."
Well, okay, so the reason that I say this is that, yes, of course, literally speaking, you are absolutely correct. Of course, the government initially had to set those things up when they made the Constitution. But what they forged within that Constitution means that this is what we're both kind of saying here, is that the Constitution does not permit the government to go, we will now afford you this right. No.
Exactly.
Now we will afford you these rights. It's like, no, the Constitution has this already laid out. If you want to change these rights, you're going to have to go to the people and get an overwhelming amount of support and change this.
And yes, that's correct. And see, that's what I didn't know about Canada. See, again, you're my neighbor, right? I know nothing about your government. The only premier, and I didn't know that was called premier until you told me a little while ago, is Doug Ford.
Yeah.
Who's the
discount Chris Farley.
As they're baking, they're going to need the supply, so it's critical. The three top areas are yeast, flour, and sure enough, the old toilet paper again. But we're going to make sure that we have those on the shelves. It's so important. But and the supply chain as a whole is so important. So it's critical that we continue with the supply chain and have the proper items on the shelves there.
Next question.
And by the way, before I jump, I make the best cherry cheesecake ever. I do it from scratch. No recipe. I got it down pat. And again, you can tell I've eaten one too many cheesecakes. That's my problem.
Well, then feast your eyes on this little baby right here. How do you like this one, Randy? He's still my chocolate heart. This here's a 7-layer chocolate cake with a chocolate mousse center covered in chocolate icing.
You know, I learned this recipe years ago off my mother when I was 10 years old, and I just had it kind of memorized. And she made such an awesome cheesecake, and she learned the recipe off her sister, my aunt Wendy. So half a cup of milk, and I put 3 in there, so that's going to be 1.5 cups.
Now stand back, Randu, because this can get a little ugly. You gotta do it just right. Man, what are you doing? It's all in the wrist. What goes on? Just right. What is you doing? Many times I'll even take a little bit.
That, my friends, is the Premier's Cheesecake. Friends, stay safe, stay healthy, and these are some of the fun things you can do when you're self-isolating.
Well, don't knock it till you try it, Randu, because this stuff is good.
Who's the premier of British Columbia?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll honestly tell you right now.
Wait a minute.
I don't care.
Is there a premier of what's that place way up north?
Northwest Territories or Nunavut?
West.
Oh, like Alberta? Kenny?
No, way up north.
Oh, you must be talking about Yukon?
No, because they're
Arctic Circle type.
Yeah, so we have 3 territories. Northwest Territories is one of them. That might be the one you're thinking of. They broke it in half into Nunavut and Northwest Territories some years back, but
I don't think that they have a
Yukon.
Yukon is it could be.
I met a girl in New Orleans in 1988. I was at well, you can guess. Who was from? I think it was Yukon.
Okay, yeah. That
She was
is
a
way up
teacher.
north. It's also a territory, yeah.
That's Sandy Silver. Is the premier of Yukon.
See, and again, I don't know all 50 governors, right? I barely know who my governor is.
Well, the reason I don't know British Columbia is simply because their politics are so like California that I just ignore them. Like the stuff they say is completely gibberish to me.
Okay, and I come back to my 589 out of 5.1 million. We're going to lock down.
So here's the other funny thing. Like, you know, I've been talking to people about this pandemic. And they talk about the deaths and way back when this all started, and Dragonbeard and a lot of people were kind of rolling, not you rolling your eyes at me, but other people. I said, you wait. There are going to be more suicides, higher rates of depression amongst children and adults.
Smashlock has some quite a bit of training. He spent years training in social work.
Yeah, social services,
sociology.
Yeah, lots of sociology and lots of psychology. I'm by no stretch of the imagination an expert. I don't want to overstate my expertise in these fields. It's good enough that I think I can speak comfortably on them, but I'll still screw up some of the terminology from time to time. It was hell going through that course, by the way, because
very, very left wing.
Oh my goodness. Very, very. It's kind of what
we were thinking at one time. We might actually just take out your textbook and read it for an episode. Because it was so crazy, the stuff that was in there.
Oh, yeah. I still have that textbook.
We were just laughing. We had tears in our eyes, but it was really bad.
Yeah, it was super bad. And everything you see in, Black Lives Matter, down the line, 100%. But in British Columbia, and I might not have the exact number, but I believe the number of deaths has been exceeded by the number of suicides.
Wow.
It's been, it's crazy.
No,
the numbers.
I know. You just heard my head explode when I said, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and then that's not even getting into the OD crisis, like the opioid crisis that we're having.
Holy crap!
Yeah,
and so it bothers the crap out of me and don't get me wrong, I love Courtney. I mean, I've never actually met her. I actually did have one video with her like this one time a couple of years ago, short, maybe 15, 20 minutes. She's a lovely person. I mean,
yeah,
but lock it down. We have 589 cases.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking hospitalizations, deaths.
Someone should dub her face on
1 times 10 to the -4.
Yeah, it's the same thing here. And we touched on this before. It's the cases thing. They keep talking about cases. Listen, the more cases you have, first of all, there's a whole flawed system in that. But let's just say you had that many cases confirmed, but you only have this tiny amount of people dying, which means that actually this is good because this would reflect what? An improved immune response from herd immunity.
Bingo.
But instead, they keep talking about it like it's worse than ever.
Hang on. I'm going to have to change out. My AirPods are about to deplete.
Okay.
Hang on.
Yep.
It shouldn't do anything to us. I just got a notification. I knew I should have gone with these in the beginning because I figured this was going to be a longer than a 1 hour conversation.
Yeah, most of our talks go for a couple hours or so.
Yeah, who cares? It's like, what do I have to do? Consider, what do I have to do? Well, in the morning, I have to get my kid up to go to school because Monday and Tuesday, she actually goes to school.
Yep.
Right? And Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, she does it virtually. They give them Chromebook.
Is this in high school or in elementary school?
She's a 14. Yeah, she's a freshman.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not supposed to say freshman. I'm not supposed to say freshman.
Fresh person?
She's whatever it's called.
Yeah, we don't really use that term here. Just grade 9, I guess, whatever.
Yeah, grade 9. So, that's all. That's what I have to do. Get up and I am mom, dad.
Yeah. Oh, you're a single dad?
Yep.
Yeah, here too. I'm a single dad. My daughter's 13.
Look at this one. British Columbia marks third month in a row with more than 170 overdose deaths. It's ridiculous.
And these are the same people that keep preaching to us about COVID.
Yeah, look, whether or not the number of
deaths our own country,
right?
Alberta's working on it. There's a separatist movement there.
Really?
If they separate, depending on how it goes, I might decide to move there.
and we'll have reasonable people. Conservative. You could be liberal. You could be a liberal.
No.
And be well. I mean, I actually know
classic liberal.
Yeah, classic liberal. I actually know some reasonable liberals. Not very many. I came out of the 60s. Look what happened to me. Look what liberalism did to me.
Well, yeah, as long as it's an emphasis on individual freedoms, like Christopher Hitchens was a liberal and a lefty.
I loved him.
Yeah, but he's the old school left.
I met him in Iraq, by the way.
Oh, did you?
Did I tell you that?
No.
I guess I didn't. Now, in 2004.
I'm jealous.
Do you remember the Atlantic article, The Green Zone? There was when I got back from Iraq, this was in 2005. My sister, you got to read this. huge article out of the Atlantic. It's called the Green Zone. We didn't call it the Green Zone. This is where all the embassies were in Baghdad.
Okay.
You know, we called it the IZ, and International Zone.
Yeah.
Because of the embassies. And it was not a very safe place to be, by the way.
No, I would imagine
I'd
not.
much rather be in a ditch. And I have been in a ditch under attack by 300 or 400, Iraqis, and I have been, than to spend a night in the IZ, because they were mortared, rocketed constantly. But yeah, do you remember the movie The Green Zone?
I didn't watch The Green Zone. Did you watch the movie The Green Zone?
It doesn't ring a bell, but that doesn't mean I haven't watched.
Well, the name of it rings a bell, but
the guy that played Jason Bourne was the star of that.
Matt Damon?
Yeah.
Matt Damon.
Yeah. Anyway, really accurate. I saw that movie, and of course I hated the movie, but I saw that movie and I thought, holy shit. Oops, there I go again. This is exactly what this place looked like. I mean, the pool scene, I was there. All these guys sitting around the table, the girls in their bikinis, swimming in the pool, State Department people, right? And CIA and everything. And so in my case, here I am. I'm walking through that, right? And I look over, and I've read him for a couple of years, right? Now I know he's like as far left as, I don't know, whatever. But he was pro Iraq War, right?
Yeah.
Which was a dichotomy in his belief system. And so I see him sitting over having a drink, and I walk over to him. I've just come out of the field after like 40 days, and I don't know what I have no idea. I was called into the embassy. I can't remember for what now. At the time, I probably will after a little bit. But anyway, I walk past, I see him, and I walk over to him. I go, Are you Chris Hitchens? And he looks up at me and says, well, yeah, I am. He goes, who are you? And I introduced myself. And he goes, well, sit down and have a drink. I said, well, I can't. I'm on duty. He goes, yeah, fuck that. That's actually what he said. He said, he called a waiter over. He said, sit down, soldier. And I go, well, I'm not a soldier. He goes, oh, yeah, I see, Captain, that you're not. And he said, so we sat there for a little bit and talked about nothing. I said, what are you doing over here? He goes, well, just trying to get the feel of the country, since it looks like they're becoming, democratic. I said, oh, Jesus Christ. These people are not going to become democratic. This is not a democratic country. So they're going to become democratic. I said, all you have to do, come out with me for like 3 days in the field, and I'll tell, and you'll see. There's more dead people out there than there are people that are voting. And you know how they do it in Iraq, right? You dip your finger in an inkwell, and that's
shows
how they
you voted. Yeah.
Yeah. But there are more dead people out there that didn't vote because they were killed. But Hitchens was wonderful. I sat there and had a drink with him. I shouldn't have. And it was just a drink. I admit it was a drink.
You weren't staggering down the road afterwards like,
I really wanted to spend more time. Well, I didn't know he was let me put it this way. I didn't know he was an atheist, or I knew he was a reporter, and I loved his writing. His writing is like today.
Yeah.
You go back and look at his writing.
He predicted a lot of this stuff about identity politics.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about what he predicted. I'm just talking about the style, his writing style.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Was beautiful. It was beautiful. Once you
like my writing.
When I started reading an article, or an essay of Hitchens, I couldn't put it down. Even if I vehemently disagreed with him, I couldn't put it down.
So I think what most people get used to is ideas being presented very quickly and directly towards you. And what he did, I think there's actually an interesting effect that happens. I've gone through his work more than once, some of it. So for instance, Hitch 22, I've listened to it at least twice in audiobook alone. And it seems like I pick up on more as I go through it again. I know it sounds like I'm talking about, some people talk about the Bible, but I mean, just because the way he presents it is so well, like he compacts so many ideas so well into his sentences, and he doesn't just directly throw it in front of you like a piece of pizza. For him, it's a gourmet meal he's presenting.
Yeah, he's giving you the
exactly
recipe.
right. You know, that's a perfect way of putting it. That's a perfect way of putting it.
And so some people, I think that's why they go through something like Hitch 22 and they never pick up on some of the stuff that really jumped out at me. Stuff like, do you remember when he goes, he goes, I remember the first time I heard the phrase, the personal is political. And I realized I had heard something more poisonous than anything I'd ever heard in my life.
Yes.
Right. And that's where his whole war on identity politics began. Right. And most people that I know in the atheist community that know anything about Hitchens, all they know is his atheist element, which was really well done. But even he used to say to people, I've seen clips of him saying to audiences, like, this is not my main thing. There's a lot more to my work. This is just what everyone knows.
Yeah, I've heard you say that too. And like I said, in 2004, this was in, I'm trying to remember, July or August of 2004, that I met him. I didn't know he was an atheist. I had read his stuff before I'd ever, for a couple of years. I knew who he was. I'd never seen any videos. Did he even have any videos at the time? I don't know.
YouTube wasn't really a thing then. I think it only really took off in 2007.
And so I knew him as a political writer, right?
Yeah.
And I loved his work, even though I disagreed with him, probably 80%, 80%. But just an incredible person to sit, like you and I right now. I see you on the screen. We're 3 feet apart.
Yeah.
Think about that. And I'm Christopher Hitchens, and you're me, and we're 3 feet apart. What would you ask me if I were Christopher Hitchens? If you were me?
If I were you?
Here's what I did. Here's what I asked him. Why did you support this fucking war?
Good. I'm sure he respected the fact that you were upfront with him.
He did.
Yeah.
And his answer was very clear. He said, because Islam is a threat to humanity.
Please tell this to Sam Harris, that was his attitude, because his good friend Sam Harris has continually since 2015, continually misrepresented Christopher Hitchens' point of view that he thinks he would have voted for Hillary Clinton, despite the fact Hillary Clinton was intentionally saying that Islam was not a threat.
No, back in 2004, and if you've read any of the articles, anything Hitchens has ever written or ever said before his death, he said in one way or another, maybe not directly, but he told me directly, Islam is a threat to humanity.
Yes, we've had this conversation with people, but so for me, listen, I'm jealous because the first day I ever heard the name Christopher Hitchens was on social media, on Facebook. So I guess I didn't literally hear it. The first day I read it, I became aware of it, was the day he died.
Really?
Yes. It was my birthday, 2011. And the reason I heard it was a bunch of Christians were cackling about the fact that he probably converted when he died or he was in hell. And I was like, holy crap, guys. I was already an atheist. I just wasn't outspoken. But I was just like, hey, guys, this is really making you look bad. Maybe you want to tone it down on the joy. And so I looked up his name. And then I listened to his audiobook and I started reading through his work and watching his videos.
Yeah, so, I knew about him before, but...
Well, like I said, I knew about him before, but you have to go back and forget about atheists. Forget about Christopher Hitchens, atheist. Read his essays. He wrote for The Atlantic. He wrote for Vanity Fair. I mean, he was kind of like that guy that, if you wanted to sell magazines like Vanity Fair, you'd hire Christopher Hitchens to write a huge essay for you, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to sell 300,000 magazines off the shelf the first week. Read his stuff from the 90s, and from the early 2000s. His political stuff. It's amazing. The guy was brilliant, and his writing was. I wish I could write that well. When I write a blog post, I just sit down and go, brr, and there it is, and there's my blog post. Right.
Your stuff's good though. I like it. 600 or 800 words, and brr, there it is. And but Hitchens, I would stop on a phrase. Yeah. He's an artist. He was an artist for sure.
And sit there for a minute and look at that phrase.
He was a real wordsmith.
Yeah.
There you go, Smash. That's exactly what he was. He was brilliant. And go back to the 90s, the early 2000s. He was a genius, and people don't realize that. You're right. Atheism wasn't a big deal to him. when I met him in 2004, I didn't know he was an atheist. I was an atheist. I didn't know I was an atheist.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was just a non-believer. I never started calling myself an atheist until I came online.
Yeah.
Probably 2012, right?
Yep, around the same time as me.
I mean, I never called myself an atheist. I never really thought about it myself as being an atheist. I was just a non-believer.
I remember spending hundreds of hours on a website called Stickam, and it used to have docs, like up to 8 docs where people could converse over video chat. And I was in an atheist Stickam room, and there were some great conversations. There was a gentleman there who was an absolute joy to listen to. Hitchens-esque is what I would have called him, and he was the guy who got me into reading and listening to Christopher Hitchens. He was an electrical engineer and lawyer, old guy, and his name was Ken Cherbuck. He's passed away from I believe it was a brain tumor now, but and then I just stopped going into the room. But he was another gentleman that was amazing to listen to. I wish he had kind of struck gold with some notoriety, but he never did. But I remember spending hours in that room arguing with different faiths, like people of different faiths, and it drew a lot of attention for its time, but it never really took off. It was good times.
And you know that's why I say that. Like back in the 2010s, we had a rise in atheism. I began my conservative skeptic blog, I think, in 2012 originally. The Chill Girls and Pink Corvettes thing began that year. I don't know, remember when you guys began, but all of a sudden, man, there was all this atheism, skepticism stuff that rose, right?
Yep.
It just and there was some really, really good. There was some awful stuff.
For me, it was 2015 when Dragonbeard suggested we do a show, and because of the nature of the course that I was in, I really didn't want to get my face out there too much. But it was like, I don't know why I ever fretted over it, because about a month after I graduated, I knew I didn't want to work in the field.
All for naught.
Yeah, so giant waste of money it was. But yeah, no, it was a good time, but I mean, I remember the error in my thinking, and I've mentioned it probably on about a half dozen shows where I was like, man, we got to stop this infighting, all the social justice warriors and the atheists. This is our time to come together and build this movement and da-da-da-da-da.
I've written about this so much.
Yeah, and it just kept fragmenting, and I think it was probably about 2 years into our podcast where I just said, fuck it, tear it apart. It's not worth saving, because you're just letting this minority of snowflake voices just run roughshod over your conferences, over your videos. They're deplatforming people, and now this has moved into the mainstream.
Yeah, and see, that's the problem though, is that you and me, Smash, and I'm part of this, allowed this to happen.
I agree.
Right.
I beg you not to take this risk. You know what they say. 5s have lives, 4s have chores, 3s have fleas, 2s have blues, and 1s don't get a rhyme because they're garbage.
Craig, you got this.
No. No, please. Not the Outlands. Please.
The 5s have spoken. And you are not very good, and... What? No, please! I'm just not very good at public speaking!
More of it at the time, because we had the PZ Myerses, the Olivia Bensons,
What a useless tit that guy was.
Actually,
he's still out there.
Yeah, just so you're aware, Ambrosia X was on our show once as part of a group for females during Gamergate. I brought different groups of people on there to talk about stuff. She was one of them. And also Karen has been on to talk with, she was on there with a friend of hers from Honey Badger. So we've had them on a couple of them on the show.
Okay, well, and how'd that work out? Well, it's like with Sargon with me. You remember how Gamergate got started?
Yeah, with
who created the hashtag Gamergate?
Oh, that I don't know.
Adam Baldwin.
Oh, was it him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I like that guy.
The actor.
He's a shit disturber. I like that.
Sargon had him on, right?
Yeah.
On his program, right? And so this is why Sargon hates me. So I was listening in live to this interview with Adam Baldwin, right? And Sargon was talking to him and blah, blah, blah. And Adam is a conservative, an unabashed conservative. The show he was on at the time was called The Last Ship, right? If you remember that one. It was kind of an end of the world scenario.
Okay. I don't remember it.
Anyway, it was on for like 3 or 4 seasons. Anyway, so Sargon's talking to him and talking about conservatism versus liberalism and blah, blah, blah. And so Adam comes up and says, well, Sargon, everything you're telling me, if you lived in the United States, you'd be a conservative. He was anti-feminist.
Yeah.
He was anti-feminist. He was anti-abortion. He was everything a conservative in the United States at that time would identify with. And, I'm clearly a liberal. Of course, he's in England, right?
Yeah.
And so I listened to that and I wrote a post and I forwarded it to Adam Baldwin.
Yeah.
Right. And Adam saw it and he forwarded it out. I had like 20,000 hits on that post.
Nice.
That's a large, 20,000. I think it was 18,000 actually.
That's still a lot.
The most I've ever had. I mean, I'm used to getting to like 30.
The most I've ever got is 400, and that was me ripping on Trudeau, but that's off the point.
But Adam sent out to his like 200,000, and I ripped on Sargon, right? And so Sargon came into my comments.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
With the butt hurt?
And started trying to crap on me, right? And I went like, you're a piece of shit. You are a useless. And I told him that. And that's in my comments somewhere. If I go look it up, I'll print it out and we'll send it to you. You are literally a piece of shit. You have no idea what you're talking about. You talk to people without knowing who they are and what they believe in and blah, 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 blah. And he blocked me on Twitter and everything, Well,
you got the last laugh. He got deleted off Twitter.
I have made the big time. Made the big time.
You entered into the big time war. The closest I ever got to getting involved in some of the big names fighting with each other was Thunderfoot and Sargon. They at first they were talking about Brexit and they were going to do it in this civilized fashion. When I found out on Twitter, I made a picture of some kind making fun of it and just saying that they're going to be basically at each other's throats. And then first Thunderfoot came on there and he was like on Twitter and he's like, why would we be fighting about this? And then Sargon came on too. He's like, yes, I think we can have a reasonable conversation. So like a year later when they were denouncing each other, I remember I brought this tweet back up and I was throwing it into their feeds. I was like, who predicted this could happen?
I love these people. Here I am. I'm this like tiny little blogger, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I am ecstatic that you're talking to me. Because to me, you're like big time. Apostasy now no, seriously, it's like big time, and so I've made it I'm Hollywood now.
Yeah.
And these guys are fighting over nothing. And that's why they destroyed, there was no atheist movement, by the way.
Yeah.
There is no atheist community, by the way. A lot of people like to say that. There's no such thing. You and I may agree on some things and we may disagree on some other things. I'm not talking politics. I'm talking atheism.
Yeah. Well, what they did was
and because I'm an atheist and you're an atheist doesn't make us part of a community. Atheism is a personal choice.
Right. But I think what they did was they narrowed it way too much to the point where, like, if they'd kept it more general, if they'd had conservatives, libertarians, centrists, all being welcome into the fold on a continuous basis, then anyone who identified as atheist, skeptic, or loosely therein would have been potentially interested in buying products, consuming, reading posts, watching videos, going to conferences. But then they made it so narrow on the political spectrum that they became irrelevant.
Atheism minus.
And that's what I said the last conference I went to. That's what I said the last conference I went to people when I was talking with them, behind the scenes, like just hanging out, is that this is at Imagine No Religion 7, I think it was, or 8. It was the last one they did. And there's a lot of good people there, but I said, we've become irrelevant. Everyone agrees with each other here. Like I stand out like a sore thumb, and I don't even identify per se as a conservative, but so So for me, the atheist who hates me, for you, I guess it's Sargon. Mine is Matt Dillahunty.
Oh, Matt Dillahunty hates me as well.
Oh, well, you got more than one? Okay. Well, I got one that really hates me. And
I have several. I have Becky Booze. Becky Booze hates me. Rebecca Watson.
Yeah, well, that one must be, it's fine. She only ever once deigned to talk to me on Twitter, and it was to try and mock me, and I laughed at her.
Wait, Rebecca Watson, isn't that the one that looks like...
I made, this was like 5 or 6 years ago, the wall for the feminists, the feministas, shame for Twitter comments.
Oh, right? Yeah?
Yeah.
I want to shame you.
Where somebody, what's that broad's name? LA. She's an artist, and she steals like other people's work and makes it in ceramics.
The one who was crying. That one.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
One of Becky's friends. Anyway,
was it Amanda something?
She saw a tweet of mine where I was actually agreeing with somebody. All I was doing was like going, ha ha ha, that is so funny.
Yeah.
To this person's tweet, right, about one of their friends, and it's suddenly on the wall of shame of tweets.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm famous now. I'm infamous. And these people, it wasn't you, it wasn't Smash, it wasn't me that screwed up atheism. It was Becky Booze. It was PZ Myers.
Yeah.
It was Olivia Benson.
Because they tried to have an insurrection and take control for the progressives.
Exactly. And atheism is a personal choice. I've written about this a lot. I didn't wake up one morning. I wrote this post. Atheism is not a light switch. Go look it up.
Yeah.
I didn't wake up one morning and decide I'm an atheist, right? It was years in the making. It was years in the making for me.
Yeah, I don't think I ever was all that religious to begin with. But what really kind of turned me away from any of that internal monologue about God or faith or whatever was the death of my sister. I've mentioned it several times on the show. But that's kind of where the last possibility of me being or believing in something greater kind of kicked off. And the pathetic part is that when I do have arguments with religious people, they seem very sad. Right, like I missed the reason, like I missed I missed the message from God, and that the only reason I'm out of faith is because that happened, and it's not the only reason. It was just a huge pivot point in my life where certain things became irrelevant. But it is also the death of my sister is one of the reasons why I think I fundamentally disagree with the current lockdown situation. And I told that to my mother, and she goes, why? And I said, do you realize that if my sister had been alive today, dying in a hospital bed, we wouldn't be allowed into the hospital for her last moments?
Yeah.
I said, if we are here and you want to argue about protecting the community, that's fine. But if we're sacrificing our humanity to save a community, then there's no community to save.
Wow, that is profound. You guys need to mark that out. I'm serious.
Well, maybe I'll put it up somewhere at the beginning of the show.
That is profound. That is actually profound.
Well, thank you.
And it brings tears to my eyes because I was thinking while you were talking, my father died in 2007, and I knew he was dying. The whole family knew he was dying. My sister, my mother, and I knew he was dying. And my company, the people I was working for at the time, made me go to Kuwait for nonsense. I didn't even need to be there. When I got there, the boss said, why are you here? I don't need you. But we got paid more money if more people were overseas. Anyway, that's a different conversation.
My grandfather passed away in October, just before, and when I mean I mean months before all this COVID stuff happened.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, if my sister or my grandfather were passing away during the lockdown, you would have to use a taser on me to keep me away from being able to see them in their final moments.
Yeah, I didn't get to see my dad before he. The last time I had seen him, because I was living out here in Arizona, was at Christmas. I was married at the time, and we had an infant who was now my 14-year-old daughter, right?
Yeah.
And my dad got to see his granddaughter, and he was still mobile at the time. But 3 months later, he wasn't. So in March of 2007, I was like, no, well, you could either do that or you're fired, right?
Yeah.
So I and I hate the Middle East. I spent time there man, I've killed enough people there to, I could fill cemeteries with people I've killed there in the Middle East. But I wasn't there to do that, by the way. I was there for a different reason, on business reasons. And it's like, what the, please don't send me there. My dad's dying. And so guess what? I was there for 5 days. And I get a call from my wife at the time. I get back to the hotel. She's left me a message saying, call me. I call her from Kuwait. She goes, your dad, now 10-hour difference, right? It's 6 p.m. my time where I'm at, and it's 10 hours earlier where she is. Your dad just died.
Yeah. And this essentially is being done in a way to everyone en masse. Like, how many senior citizens died not being able to see their family?
Exactly. And that's what I think about the COVID. What you're talking about, Smash, the COVID people. The one Fox person, Janice Dean, right? I'm wondering if she's fired yet.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know why? You know why?
Why? Because
she has accused Andrew Cuomo of being a mass murderer.
Well,
the
he
governor
is.
of New York. Because her in-laws, her husband's parents were in separate facilities, right? And both of them died.
Like, I mean, around the world, this seems to be a pervasive problem. We're protecting ourselves and our loved ones from a virus that seems to be mostly deadly to seniors. I haven't seen my grandmother in person in almost a year and 3 months.
Wow.
She stays cordoned off in her apartment, and my parents see her every once in a while. And I refuse to adhere to the mask mandates. And as a result, because she's very afraid and been made to be very afraid, I don't go out of my way to go and visit her. And this isn't because I don't want to. It's because I feel like, not that I'll put her at risk, but that she'll feel I'm putting her at risk.
Yeah, and that's okay, but and that's where I kind of agree with the government mandates. It's like, let's protect those that are most vulnerable. Okay, that's the important thing.
Yeah, they could have done.
The rest of us, like me, even though I'm 65 years old, I'm not unhealthy. Okay,
So,
I don't have diabetes. I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have, I don't have any that I know of. Any other contributing factors. Let me go about my business.
Yeah. Okay, so this is why I said, remember, the same government people these people who support the COVID regulations and lockdowns and stuff, the people they always say, trust the government. The government officials are paid to know, and I trust them over you because you're not an expert. Okay. Well, look at what these experts have done. They didn't lock down the borders properly, right? In your country, Trump had to push that, right? To stop the travel from China.
That's correct.
Right. And he was demonized and continues to be demonized for it by even the same people who keep calling him a mass murderer. So over here in most places, they did not do that.
Wait a minute. You just said earlier that you're still having flights coming in
right.
from
Yes.
Asia.
These are the same officials we're supposed to trust. So now the reason that's important.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because I got in trouble with some Canadians, Shannon Q.
Sounds familiar. I should know who that is.
She's some kind of like popular podcaster or something. She thinks she is. And anyway, she's like, well, Canada just locked down the borders with the United States, and that's all they did. They just did it recently. I said, no, they did it a long time ago.
That's because she doesn't know.
But what they didn't do was lock down international. And so I got all this. What happens, right? When this happened to you, I know it's happened to you because I've seen it happen to you. When you get dogpiled, right?
Yeah.
And you just refuse to answer, so I just refuse to answer them.
I don't ever get dogpiled. I'm so disappointed. Like
Dragon gets dogpiled a lot.
Anyone's just listening to this, not watching. They can't see me smiling.
I'm one of the few. I'm one of the few people, and you're probably one of the other few people that stand up for him because you tell the truth, man. I try to tell the truth. Now, is it the truth? It's the truth as far as I can determine. It's the truth.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me when I'm wrong.
Right. Yeah.
I'm never wrong.
That's why you don't get dogpiled. They can't read.
And you just made the greatest error ever.
Yep. It's true.
Well, listen, I'm in truck driving, so I know the border has been shut down to a large extent. Like, there's all kinds of restrictions there now.
Forever.
Yeah.
And it's hard on you because if you drive into, let's see, I'm putting the map up in my head. You drive into like Michigan or
Buffalo, New York, places like that. I should say I don't do it now. Now I'm local. Like I'm a single dad. I can't do that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
But for the better part of a decade, that's what I was doing all the time.
Okay. So further east. Sorry. For me. But yeah, I mean, but I'm saying like, no, this happened a long time ago. Oh no, it didn't. It just happened. Sorry. No, that's not true.
You can't fix stupid.
Can't fix stupid.
We
can't fix ignorant.
This happened a long time ago. Like in 2017, actually, is when it started.
Yeah, well, it's because, like I said, just most people they're in a position where they don't experience this stuff on an ongoing basis, so they don't pay any attention to it, so they think it's not happening.
Just the part that bothers me about all of it, and again, we're jumping around a bit, but especially in Canada, Canada has become so cowed, and it's because we don't have those inalienable rights. All right, that a lot of people are just happy to give them away. And the number of people who just piss and moan online about how evil everyone else is if you don't believe as they do, it's asinine. Like, and the weird part is that they're fundamentally, and maybe not all of them, some of the more popular ones that know they have that group behind them ready to dogpile you.
Yeah.
Have a little bit more, it's not a real spine, it's like a pseudo spine.
Yeah.
But the other ones, the individuals in the street, like I've had a couple of conversations with people who were talking about the Elmer protest, the Freedom March, and they're like, those fucking idiots, they're gonna cause this to spread more, and now we're all gonna be locked down longer, and they want their grandmother to die, like all of the talking points you hear in the media.
Yeah.
And then I decided to try something. I looked at them while they were having this conversation, and instead of being that person that just stays quiet, I said, I'm one of those idiots.
Wow.
And they look at me, and they know me. Yeah. They know I'm reasonably intelligent. They know that I'm thoughtful, and they know that I'm
putting a real human face on it.
Right. And then all of a sudden, you can just see them shrink back.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, you don't put a human face on it. You have othered these people to the point that you have dehumanized them. They are its. They are not people. But as soon as I confront you with me being one of them, you back down because you're not willing to actually take those beliefs and test them against somebody that you know and like.
Again, profundity, right? I mean, nobody is willing to say that out loud. You just did, Smash. Say it out loud. I have been living this, and Dragon, I know you have been too, living the same thing for years. We've all been living the same thing for years. People will come up to me and say awful things without realizing who they're speaking to, right?
Yeah.
It's that expectation. It's that expectation of consensus.
Yeah. And then, but what did I do? I walked away. Instead of confronting, I walked away. Why? I'm the kind of person 30 years in the military, combat. I mean,
you've had your fill of conflict, have you?
I could take this thumb and put it and literally kill you with this thumb. I mean, I don't care anymore.
I only have one good hand, so please don't.
About your stupidity. I really, if I had to kill every stupid person I came in front of,
you'd have a sore thumb.
We would have 100 million less people in this country.
I think that the battle online is important, though, Jim. But I think that what I'm going to continue to do from this point forward is to do that humanizing of the argument, right? We need to take this battle and we need to keep it online, but it also has to come into the home. People who are afraid, I can't tell you how many people who I know who are in support of the Freedom March who just don't want to go because they're afraid of what people will think. Yeah. We need to stop that. You need to stop being afraid of what people think and actually take it into your home, take it into your dining room, argue with your wife about it if that's what you got to do.
I want to help you. I've been appointed to help you, but everything you're saying is just so far-fetched. They've changed your name, your friends' medical records, crashed planes because...
But just think about it. Just think about it. Our whole world is sitting there on a computer. It's in the computer. Everything. Your DMV records, your social security, your credit cards, your medical history. It's all right there. Everyone is stored, and there's like this little electronic shadow on each and every one of us just begging for somebody to screw with. And you know what? They've done it to me. And you know what? They're going to do it to you.
I already argued with my wife. In the very beginning, she was very, very afraid and very, very worried and very, very, like, just all the panic. And
she has other things going on, too. Like, let's paint her in a fair picture. Like, it wasn't
anxiety.
Just,
yeah. But I mean, now after all of the arguments have been had, she has shifted her belief on this
over time.
And it's not like I railroaded her into my way of thinking. I gave her reasoned arguments. Yeah. And then she started to consider them, and then she started watching the news and the predictions that I would make about what they were going to do next and what they were going to do next. And the part that shocks me the most is when I said depression is going to go up, this is going to go up, now they're going to go after this, then they're going to lock us in our homes, and then they're going to do this, and then they're going to shut down the school. And everyone's like, oh, they're just, and right around March, when March break was happening here in Canada, and they said, oh, it's just a 2-week extension for March break, and then all kids will all be back. And I said, they're not going back to school.
That's what I said too, Smash. I said the exact same thing because my kids' break in spring break was in March. And I said, they're not going back to school. I told my next door neighbor, I said, they're not going back to school. And guess what? 2 days after I said that, the governor came out and said, end of April.
So is this called handling people? I have been in a successful politician's office because when I was 22, I ran as an independent. So I got to know this guy. So he likes talking to me from time to time. And I was in his office.
So wait. When you were 22, like what, 2 years ago?
Earlier this year.
21 years ago.
So I was sitting in his office one day, and he had some protesters outside. It was a small protest of workers. And he actually let me sit in the room in his office while his advisor came in from the party and let me listen to the way they talk to each other about how to handle a crowd. And so what I knew, because of experiences like this and just looking at history, but especially that experience, when they said 2 weeks, I right away said they mean 2 months. And and they're getting you ready for 2 months. So first they're going to give you 2 weeks. And then sure enough, they said 2 months. Exactly what I said, 2 months. And then I'm like, okay, now they're going to start adding months. And then they're going to try and turn this into a permanent situation.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, go back in the United States. I don't know what you guys saw. Middle of March this year, President Trump came on TV. 15 days to flatten the curve.
Yep.
So 15 days.
Flatten the curve.
became 6 weeks, right?
Yep.
Through the end of April. And then by the end of April, the governors of like Florida, Georgia, the red states, Arizona, where I live, were going like, holy crap,
Yeah.
Unless you guys are going to like be paying us a lot of money over, time, we got to get back to work. So they start opening the states in May. Florida did. What did the media say?
It's too soon. Florida. It's too soon. Cases are going to spike.
Too soon, and Florida will pay for it. Florida is flourishing, by the way, if you didn't know. Arizona.
They even managed to count all their ballots on the same night.
Yeah, they did, actually.
Michigan couldn't manage it.
They did. They're like the third largest state as far as population in the country. And yeah, they did. They did their whole everything.
I got to give Michigan credit, though.
Back to the pandemic, it's like, we're looking at all this, and then we see these people saying, well, we've got to lock down, we've got to stay separate, we've got to do, sneeze in your armpit when you're out in the forest.
I think it's your elbow.
Well, whatever. When you're out in the forest by yourself,
if a man sneezes in a forest and no one's there to hear it,
does he get COVID still?
Does he still spread COVID?
That's the question.
Okay, so I am going to swear.
You know what? What we should do is we should like put together a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter. No, I guess it would be a Kickstarter, and get like $100,000 and put together a video that we could put PSA on TV where the guy's out in the forest and he sneezes into his elbow, and every squirrels die.
Right? The trees wilt.
The trees wilt. Seriously.
He becomes impotent.
You got that Requiem of a Dream. Oh man, the go-getters though. You gotta give it to those counters in Michigan. Like they said they weren't going to start counting in until at 10 a.m., but they decided to put in the extra time. Yeah. You gotta thank them for their enthusiasm and their ambition. Oh my gosh!
Listen, guys, we're having a great talk, but I should probably get us to round it up or finish up because we're almost at the 3-hour mark.
Well, that means we'll make it to the 3-hour mark.
So that means this has been a great talk.
It's been a lot of fun, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you for being on. No, it's been a great conversation.
And what I'm hoping is you guys continue to do this.
That's our plan.
We want to start doing it once a week,
it's monthly or weekly or whatever. And if you want to have another ridiculous voice on, hey, all you got to do is say, hey, can you be here? Whatever,
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's very rare that we ever have a guest on that can kill people with their thumbs.
That's true. I mean, but we don't ask people if they can do that.
That's true. We haven't asked a lot.
We've had at some point. I think we had Subman on the show, and he's got military training.
I'm just wondering. I bet his death rate's higher than COVID.
Subman is like. We had him on Chill Girls, by the way.
Oh, did you?
He's like, why do you want to have me on? He asked me. Because you're an atheist and
adorable.
You have a lot of interesting things to say. And
yeah, he does.
He does.
It's very rare you can find thoughtful people who are also entertaining to speak to. Most of them are just boring, like Sam Harris. Sorry.
Well, and Subman's one of those guys, perfect example, like narrowing things too much. He wants to keep his guns, and he's tired of hearing atheists tell him that he's a savage if he wants to have a gun.
For me, okay, I'm a gun owner. Out in my garage, I have a safe, a gun safe.
Yep. Don't ever come to Canada. Bill Blair just outlawed like 1,500 types of firearms.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, guess what? Joe Biden, if Joe Biden actually takes office, he's going to outlaw by executive order.
Well, this is where his senility is going to be handy. They can just grab his arm and stamp things with it or whatever.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. It's silly. It's silliness. And so that's what scares me, because he's not actually going to be president. It's going to be
Camel Toe Harris.
I just can't wait to hear the State of the Union address from him. They're like, McDonald's, Big Mac, tanks.
Can I have a nap now? It's late. Get me the nap.
Like, look. Okay,
it's the state of the thing. The thing that's the thing.
The thing, it's the state of the thing.
They screwed up.
The Constitution says
they screwed up. All right. Like, look, they better, if they do an investigation or if they overturn those ballots, all I'm going to say is this. There is no bloody way in hell that a dude who can barely finish a sentence, who gets his millions and his thousands and his hundreds mixed up, who's clearly suffering from at least
dementia.
The early onset of dementia. And trust me,
he wasn't that brave before the dementia.
My grandmother, my father's mother died of Alzheimer's. I know what that is. She died in 93.
Yeah.
I know what that looks like.
Yeah, and it looks like
he has it. He has it.
Right. And so here he is. He's mumbling on stage during, like, his Obama moment where he's got a crowd. It's not a big crowd, but it's a crowd. And I counted at least 23 errors in his mode of speech. Yeah. Right. He's not an inspiring speaker. He doesn't have any presence, but the media is just jerking him off. Like, oh my God, Biden's a breath of fresh air. Like,
because he's not Trump.
Right.
Because he's not Trump.
But
again,
there's
dead cat would get the same.
The Schrodinger's cat of politics.
Media.
Yeah, the Schrodinger's cat of politics. If Biden's dead in a box, he can still be alive. Like, it doesn't matter, all right? There's no way that a man as uninspiring, who drew crowds in the dozens, who has a running mate who only managed to capture less than 3% of the primary total.
Who is known for fellatio.
Right.
There's no way that career was based on fellatio.
The hate for Trump is strong. I'm not going to say it's not, but it is not so strong that both of them broke records in votes.
Well, but I don't think that Biden could possibly have beaten Obama in 2008. Like, I was just saying to someone the other day, like, I remember traveling through Chicago in my truck, and listening to his speech when he won the primary. And I was not a huge Obama fan, and I felt my hair raising up a little bit.
Right.
Like, he was so good at delivering. He was so good at running a crowd. And you're telling me that Biden just beat his numbers? There's no possible way I can believe this.
It's impossible. It's impossible. Here's the thing. What the media is trying to tell us today is that you don't need to have a campaign.
Right.
It's like in the 1890s. Okay, the old days in the United States, the guys in the rooms with the cigars, right?
Yeah.
When Garfield was nominated.
Not the cat for our listeners. This is a president.
Yeah, this is a president.
Andrew Garfield?
I think so.
And he did get elected, President Garfield. That he was selected not by a prime. They didn't have a convention, and there wasn't a primary. And 50 states, there weren't 50 states then anyway. There were like 30 or 40 maybe. It was old men sitting in rooms with cigars and said, "Yeah, James Garfield, last nominated."
Best guy here.
I'm serious. That's what they did. Lincoln. When Lincoln was elected, exactly the same thing. There was no primary system in the United States at that time during the 19th century.
There isn't for the Democrats anymore.
No, there isn't.
Who has the most money? You get to run.
But a bunch of old guys sitting in a dark room with cigars saying, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Polka, what?
Well, I think that
let's go with Biden.
Yeah, I think that
he won't live out the year.
Yeah, and they knew they could control him because he's so dirty. They could expose him if he didn't do exactly what he was told. This is my theory.
But it's like, again, the old days. It's like in the old days, there were no primaries. There were nothing. It was like again, in the 19th century, in the early 20th century, presidential candidates were chosen by a group of, then men sitting in the dark room with cigars saying, he's the guy for us.
Yeah.
And then that guy, Garfield, never went out on a train, or he sat in his home, right?
Isn't he the only president that's won 2 non-consecutive terms?
No.
No? Okay.
He never finished one. He was assassinated.
He was shot, yeah.
Which one was the one that had 2 non-consecutive terms? I thought it was Garfield.
Adams, okay.
He was the one that was friends with Jefferson, then he wasn't friends with Jefferson after they both ran for president.
Twitter breaks up friendships. That's what I hear.
That's right.
and you could blame that on Jack Dorsey.
I could blame it on Jack Dorsey.
If I ever get a chance to yell at him, I'll end off with blah, 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 blah. And also, the way you broke up the friendship between Jefferson and Adams, I will never forgive you, son of a bitch.
Piece of shit, you piece of shit.
I really do, though, like to kind of make my closing statement. Jim, I really do hope that you're right and that they overturn it for Trump, because things are getting to the point here. Some of the rumors that are on their horizon about what Canada and specifically Ontario has planned with COVID lockdowns and future measures and mandatory vaccinations are a possibility. I sincerely had a plan to get to the United States.
You're welcome at my house.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I have some family down there too. My wife is a citizen.
Thanks, man. Right now he's working.
Listen to me. I'm afraid of this because it's not Biden. It's not even Harris. It is a far left wing takeover.
It's a revolution.
Exactly. But here's the problem with these people. I have all the guns.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, okay, and I've said this on our show before. I wish we could find the clip. What goes through the heads of these city dwellers who don't even know where their frickin' food comes from, trying to say
I have all the guns.
Right.
In my outside in my garage. I just told you.
Right.
I have a gun safe.
Like no chance. If it came down to siege warfare, the rural communities could just stop shipping food.
Well, they assume the military and the police and everyone will simply...
The military in the United States will not support. I know that because I'm former military. I live out like a mile outside of a army post. I know that they will not support any kind of insurrection against Democratic Republic.
So one last question for me, because now that you've just made something interesting, this is what always happens when we're trying to end the show. If the Supreme Court declares Trump the winner and throws out a bunch of those votes and it swings everything, and the Democrats cry foul and the world cries foul, and there's bodies and blood burning in the streets.
Ooh, is this a movie or is this real?
Right. Do you think that the military will side with with them, or with...
They won't side with anybody.
Oh, okay. They'll just stay out of it?
Exactly. Unless there's insurrection going on, right? Where the president, and before January 20th, right, it's still Trump, has to call in the military to put down insurrection.
Yeah. What do they call it?
The Insurrection Act.
It is the Insurrection Act. Exactly right. God, this is a smart guy.
Yeah, I think they meant...
How did you know him?
I don't know. He just showed up here and thought I was smart, and I didn't tell him anything otherwise.
Yeah, the Insurrection Act.
The Insurrection Act.
Yeah.
If there's insurrection going on in some city, I mean, like right now, you see these protests going on. They're burning this and burning that and whatever. Well, it's not enough to be called insurrection. But if you find, like you're saying, Smash, like I don't know, Trump is all these votes are thrown out, and it comes that Trump is actually
president.
He's president
elect. Yeah.
And hundreds of thousands of people come out and said, yeah, guess what? They have no choice. I mean, you have to protect civilians. And, what I'm saying by civilians is those people that are not involved.
That's the problem. I fear that it's going to get messy, because the people who do have guns in their gun safes, who are living in those red rural communities, they're not going to put up with this crap much longer. And I really think that either this is the plan and this is what they want, or the Democrats and the radical lefts that are doing this stuff. And if it were to come to this is all a what if scenario.
Sure.
They don't fathom exactly how bad this would go for them, because this Black Lives Matter, Antifa, soy boy, trans rights, radical groups being bared down on.
Oh my God. You are now allowed to come to the United States. I just granted your passport. I just did that. I just granted your passport.
It's not going to happen. I like your purple hair dye and your chain vest does not intimidate a guy wearing a cowboy hat and holding an AR-15. It's just not going to happen.
Me. And I'm that dude in Arizona that wears that Stetson.
Nice.
I have 6 pair of cowboy boots. And I have a locker full of guns, boy.
All right. Well, do you have anything else you want to say in closing? And then we can talk after the recording's done.
Yeah.
Can I end, and then you guys can go on?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me on.
And thanks for being on.
Yeah, it's been a lot fun, interesting, elucidating to some degree, and I hope at some point in the future maybe you'll have me back on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll have you back on.
Thank you.
All right, now where's your blog? Do you want to say that? Because I'll put it on the notes.
Conservative Skeptic.
Yeah. So
.com, conskept.com.
I'll put it on the video, and I'll also put it in the notes on the video and on our podcast website.
Chang eats the sun and drinks the skies, and they both go with him when he dies.
Thank you, everyone, for joining in my celebration. As many of you know, I ate my twin sister in utero. So, on my birthday, I try to remember I'm a winner. This one's for you, Connie. And a 1, a 2, a chang, 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 4.
I thought he did great. That's why I'm giving him 5 meow meow beans.
Aw. Well, Bixel, I'm sorry, but I thought his intro was just okay. That's why I'm going to give him 2 out of 5 meow meow beans.
My meow meow beans.
With meow meow beans, students can rate teachers. Teachers can rate students. Everyone and anyone can rate each other. Meow meow beans.
You know, I fought for this country. And I know you don't get to pick and choose the parts you fight for. But I know
I should go number 2 soon.
Right him!
Okay, but that's low.
All 5s must be cleansed of their 5 filth and reduced to oneness.
Jeff, hey, Shirley, I'm not a 5 anymore. I'm a 1 like everyone else. I'm like everyone else.
Who's next?
All right, time to pull the plug.
Oh, great mother of ones, mustard-faced savior, there is still a 5 hiding among us that has not been cleansed.
Nonsense. All 5s were reduced to oneness in the great purge of about 2 minutes ago.